I have no ability to do any work when I'm streaming. I used to try and perform. My stream was about performing, and I used to try and perform. I still didn't get any work done. I'm taking a new leaf. I'm taking a leaf out of Laser's book, and that is to just chat, just hang out, ignore people. That's the trick. So if I'm ignoring you, it's not personal. It's just a coping mechanism that I've borrowed from an old friend of mine. All right. So yeah, let's get into it. There is going to be an audio component to this. So I just had to go and make sure everything was in reach. I didn't have a packet of tissues and I didn't have water and a few bits and bobs. So we can kind of get into it. So, right, let's get into the news. This is the news for Underpunks. I don't have any puppets. The idea was to have puppets ready for you, but I at least wanted the alligator ready because he can just fuck up like constantly. The alligator just fucks up constantly, and just that's perfect for what we're trying to do today. Max is not ready. Max, we could probably build Max on stream, try and put him back together out of his bits and pieces if we get time. I'd turn the heater off as well. Nothing worse than trying to sit there streaming and you're just sweating because you tend to stress a little bit as well when you're streaming. All right. The news for Underpunks. The role-playing game built on the Wax blockchain should be in it. It's an amazing living world where the players actually get to change the world, direct the world, control the world. Now, that kind of means that the things you're doing, and like the UFOs are a great example. There was a chance when we had a big UFO event, and there was a chance that UFO event could have just not become a reality as such. And it is massively changed the game. No, it mightn't be noticed by most people because only, 5 people I think 6 people have UFOs. But what it did was enabled the code that underlines the UFOs, which is space, which is an orbiting space, which I don't know many games where you can get into and things orbit. So there's a few tricks that we're going to be using for that, which we'll get to in a minute. That's AI. And then I've been playing around that for a very long time, getting that ready. At the moment, we go outside with the UFOs. We kind of fudge it a little bit, and we go outside of the solar system, and we tend to where there's no orbit, so that beyond the influence of the sun, which is the Oort cloud, and I don't have to worry about it. So the UFOs just go out there. Let's bring in something exciting. Before we get into the news, because I want to go through those properly. I just want to bring up an image. And we might switch over to... is this working? Oh, okay. This will do. Let's go down there. So this is another reason why I wanted to switch to OBS. Was because OBS can do all these plugins and transitions like you just saw. Like, I can just move the boat from there and I can go to there and stuff like that. And I can kind of animate that in. Previously I was using Streamlabs. The reason for that was because Streamlabs has with the different things. So I can put up an image on the screen and I can press a key to sort of make that work. I don't know if I have anything rigged up on this one. No, I don't have anything rigged up. So I can press a key and on Streamlabs and while it's held down, it'll show the image. And as soon as I release the button, it'll go away. So it'll disappear. And that's how the mouths were moved. They were just kind of like a new image would come over the top of the 2D puppets that I was doing. And so what I've done, and with the help of language learning sort of programs like ChatGPT, I've been able to just in an hour whip out a script that fixed the problem. So I now have a script that I've written which can basically fix that problem. We'll have a look at that in a minute if anyone's interested in code. So what I'm going to do now is bring up an image, and this is quite an exciting moment for people who play the game, because you haven't seen this before, it hasn't been teased before. And bad direction, how you doing? And where are we going to be? Where is it? Probably put it in there. Nope. Oh, I might, okay, put it in there, did I? It's one of these. I didn't label them. There we go. Are you ready? There you go. You see it? Did you get that? So this is, I have to send this. Like I said, I'm on 2 different computers now. So my work computer is still a laptop, and this is just kind of a stream computer at the moment. Finding files is like really difficult at the moment until I get a system sorted out for that. Yeah, let's bring up the size of that. So that is the new, yeah, it's kind of been, you won't see it nicely pixelated because of the things. Let me just pop that there. But for YouTube, I'll just overlay over the top of this. So that is the new quest spaceship that will be available to all players in Underpunks, whether you are verified, I don't care. It's whether you're subscribed, verified, whether you've Patreon. This is the free-to-play kind of version. And this is the SOS makepiece, and SOS being the designation, which I think stands for Stellar Orbital Shuttle, I think. Where might that be? I'm pretty sure that's what it stands for. And yeah, so that's basically going to be the quest to find the materials so you can build one of those. So for anyone who's played the game and has used Patreon and understands kind of what tier 5 is, which is one of the higher level Patreons, you can actually you can design your own spaceships. So this is kind of not for you, but it could be for you if it's up your alley. It could be something you might want to collect. Now, the spies have already potentially got the resource list. And let's see if they got it right. I haven't actually checked. And let's go to... That's where I put it. So where did I put things? Oh, I don't think you wrote it down. Okay. It's a lot of materials that pretty much you can only get if you're going to be up on with a Scrounger, which is the new robot. So let me bring that in. What you doing so big there? This is where you realize how much work goes into frickin' streams. And I'm talking about the initial setup. My stream was set up like over a period of like just constantly changing over and getting updated in terms of what it could do. So this is going back to bare basics for me, but bear with it, we'll be fine. There he is. That's a little Scrounger. He's a little personal robot that kind of follows you around. He's got a little grinding kind of mechanism that he can wedge things. Nothing too. He can't really mine as such, but he can sort of knock out a hard rock. He's got some sensors in his kind of eyes that can kind of that is technology that's been borrowed from the helmet. Allows him to sort of identify stuff. On the right there, he's got a little storage, or his left, your right, there's a little storage unit. And he can hold kind of five things in there. In terms of NFTs, he'd picking like loot, the actual assets. He could actually pick up 5 of those and drop them in. We treat ores differently. So the fragile items that only exist on the database that don't become NFTs, things like raw materials sort of stuff, they like copperum or copper, those kinds of stuff. Then he can pick up, based on how much he can pick up of that is pretty much based on your the normal stats for stowage. So he adds to that. He doesn't add a lot because he's basically just adding kind of 5, but it's a little bit. But he's upgradable, so you'll be able to upgrade that. But there'll be a chance for him to pick up a few actual assets that exist on the blockchain. That'll be capped at 5, so that's his sack size, so to speak. So you'd be able to pick up, if you've got a sack with 2 slots, you'd be able to pick up 2 things. He'd be able to pick up 5, so he sort of does that. Has he got more stowage than the singing chest? I think he has, because the singing chest is a grumpy old bastard, and he's a chest that walks around and helps people bury things and stuff. He keeps his special arrows in there, his divination arrows inside that chest. So he doesn't like nothing being put in that chest at all. Keep your shit out of my chest, because it is literally his chest. So this one has a little bit of stowage there. The parts from this, from a lore perspective, have been borrowed from the so each of the main shires that we were talking about before has a vermin, which is kind of inbuilt. It's mainly for new players, and the vermin can attack you and whatever. The vermin in Upshire, which is Segal, who's in chat, Segal Shire. The vermin there are these kind of bat drones, kind of flying kind of robots, but they have a hive mind. They have a swarm hive mind. So from a lore perspective, Segal has been capturing a few of these and testing out and borrowing bits of technology. He's included one of the mining chips, which comes from the Oceans, which are the aliens from the Orc Lab with the UFOs we talked about earlier. He's used one of their helmet chips that allows him to see kind of ores, brings up a heads-up display and can distinguish, scan the environment, sort of stuff like that. So he can kind of look for that. He's got the 4 legs, which allows him to really wedge in. So one of his other things when you're climbing is there'll be no slippage. So slippage is when you're climbing through the 3rd phase of the climb to the surface, which is levels 40 to 60. So level 0 to 20 is a cliff face that you have to climb, which can take up to 2 months when you're in game doing it, because you're not working every hour. You're sort of working every couple of hours, doing you're playing the game once just for a few seconds every couple of hours. Then level 20 to 40 is the second level of climbing, and there's dragons sort of above and below that level. And then we get to the Copper Maze, which is a very, I think in most people's minds, they probably have this copper maze that is like really shiny and just full of copper. It's not, okay? It's corroded. It's, it's patchy bits of the rock coming through. Any sense of it being a functioning copper pipe system is way gone, which is kind of why it's a maze. It's kind of collapsed and decrepit, and things don't line up and match up the way they should do. Some of those, it's a vertical maze, so it'll be very much just like trying to solve a maze. It is 20, I think it's 20 wide, A to T. It's 20 blocks wide and it's 20 high. That's how big, that's the grid size of the maze. And you can climb up the maze. You'll be using a new command for that. And, some of them would be walls, but you're never climbing through the northwest, east, south, up, down, 6 directions. You're just limiting yourself to up, down, left and right, east and west. And some of those mazes, of course, will just have a wall, and you have to kind of find they're blocked, and some of them lead to other ones. So each one can either have one option to get out. Each of one of those sort of grid blocks can give you one option to get out, or it can give you 3, and some of them may have more. If you're going up a vertical pipe, so let's say you're going up a pipe where you can't go left and right, and then you go up, and you can't go left and right, and then you go up, and you can't go left and right, and you're like, okay, I've got to keep going up. Or you go down, so you're forced. When you're in those kinds of situations, there will be slippage, so they will sort of grind down the time a little bit, and they will certainly slow you down in the race to sort of finding mainly the surface. The level 60. Level 60 starts to get really interesting because we're getting pretty close to the human realm. So above level 60, 100 is the surface. Underneath that surface, and on top of the surface is an old Soviet power plant, decrepit kind of power plant. Underneath that, and it was what's the one that's called with the volcanoes, stuff like that, the heat power plant. I forget what it's called. Underneath that was a bunker system was built, a hidden kind of bunker, which all the research done, and there was a few scientists working in there, and they were working on basically combining. Doing some gene and a little bit of AI stuff and all sorts of weird things. And that is where the mutant humanoid rats that are the main characters that everyone's playing in Underpunks come from. There will be other characters. There are some kind of not really humanoid, but they're certainly mutant spiders that have come from that lab as well, or evolved from that lab. There is also some ants, which the spies kind of are aware of it, and we haven't had them yet because we're going full AI on the ants. I was just going to bring them in, and then I pulled it back. So that's probably a question I haven't actually had from the spies yet, is what about the ants? Because it was sort of built up like it was going to be something, and then I pulled it. The reason I pulled it was because AI was starting to ChatGPT hadn't come out just yet, but I was starting to become aware of some of the back-end API things and stuff, and I thought, we might be able to do something with this. So we'll talk about that in a moment. So what this guy can do for you, if you have a rope, and let's face it, if you don't have a rope, what are you doing up there? You can tie your rope to him if he's on these areas, so he can kind of scramble up for you, and you can pull yourself up, and you won't get any slippage. So that's the first thing. You'll just avoid slippage if you have this equipped when you're traveling. Now, so 20 by 20 grids, and then another 20 by 20 grid, another 20. So we have 3 20 by 20 grids. Each one of those little cubes or little kind of locations, we call them pitches. Each one of those pitches at a different height has a different resource allocated to it. This guy can pick it up. These are the kinds of resources that are made through heat. So one of the differences between the Oort cloud and Earth is the volcanic sort of activity on Earth and the shifting plates and all this kind of stuff, and just generally the heat that has formed a lot of the metals that we take for granted. You're just not going to find those in the Oort cloud. In the Oort cloud, you're going to find more kind of gases and stuff like that, but you're going to find them frozen because it's so freaking cold out there. So you'll literally be having like frozen hydrogen and frozen oxygen and frozen nitrogen, stuff like that, chunks of ice. And that's essentially what you're mining out there. So the reason why the UFOs come to our underpunk Earth, our underground world, is they don't like heat, so they don't really like mining on the surface. They don't want to be around the humans. So they've coming straight into underground abandoned mines and stuff like that, and they know the way into Ratropia because of a kind of whirlpool and their scanning abilities, and they have come down to get some of those resources. It's so the difference there is quite extreme, and that will make for some good arbitrage in terms of trading, because you'll be able to trade the expensive, well, what would be considered cheaper, the cheaper resources on Earth that you would sell, which would be like, geez, you get a reasonable price for your effort. You'll be able to sell those at a much higher price to the auctions, based on values, because we have a very dynamic economy system that looks at supply and demand and all sorts of stuff. And the stuff that you're getting, the gases, the frozen gases and things like that, some of those are quite rare and difficult to mine here. Actually, in actual fact, the Ratropia really don't have a way to mine gas yet. That's not ice. So they use plasma cutter in the ocean kind of asteroid belt. In the asteroid belt for the oceans, there are actually 200 procedurally generated asteroids in the game. This is a text-based game, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that before. Underpunks is a text-based game. And we're taking that to a pretty a new level of what is available currently with text-based games. So we're going fully procedural, 200 million asteroids that can be discovered. When you discover them, you get to put your name on it as the discoverer. You get to mine them. The resources on those asteroids do not replenish. They can be emptied out. There's a few other things that we're getting into and kind of finding. Don't want to touch on that too much, because I want to get into some exciting news regarding how this kind of stuff works in terms of the kind of AI structure of how we're going to run some of these things. So getting back to the swarm bots that are above Upshire, the vermin, what we're going to be doing is bringing in a concept, an early concept of AI, which when I'm talking about this concept, when I'm not talking about ChatGPT, what I'm talking about is, and I'm not talking about language systems and stuff like that. What I'm talking about is what we already had in video games, which was, an AI which was very specifically programmed to do certain things, which in a text-based game is actually a pretty big achievement. In a normal video game, you kind of expect it, but surprisingly enough, the AI NPCs that you're fighting in video games really aren't that smart. They still do tend to stand around a little bit. And they tend to kind of like shoot back or duck for cover. They don't tend to work as a team or kind of think and stuff like that. So we will be playing around with some of those concepts with the AI in terms of how they arrive. So let me strip that way back for people who actually understand the game and have been playing it for like 2 years now. The early iteration of that, I'm trying to reach for my mouse to use my laptop, and my laptop mouse is on the PC. So the early iteration of AI, to give you a really basic format, is just using a set interval JavaScript function, which is basically like a clock. It's just like an internal clock. It's something we haven't had before. It's something we're going to have. I've been testing out the stress levels that we can kind of handle with the server, and a lot of this stuff has to be balanced with how much money's coming in terms of from Patreon, from the game, because none of the money from the Underpunks to support Underpunks and develop Underpunks actually comes from the NFTs. It comes from Patreon, and then those NFTs go to the Patreons, and then they get to sell them, and they're the ones that get to do all the trading with it and stuff like that. So one of the things that we are going to have is an internal clock system, which I can now safely say that I think I can handle that in terms of the extra server load and stuff like that. It basically sets a counter once the bot starts. So you start the bot. If I restart the bot, clock restarts. and then it kind of ticks, and it might tick every 10 minutes, or you can set it to whatever. Let's say it ticks every hour, and it just counts away. And then it does something. It does something on the hour. And that's where it gets very complicated in terms of programming. So one of the future things, and soon to be things that we're going to be doing with this, is a lot of the enemies in terms of vermin and stuff like that will actually have a little bit of AI process to them. A clearer way to describe this would be the thief, the classic thief. And I'll go back to a reference here of the Zork text-based game from the late 70s. There was a thief that could mug you when you're around. So I've always had a plan to have him, and I was always going to use this system to make him run, which basically means that he can move, so he can do his actions, and he'll have his programmed track quite complicated, where there's times when he goes to sleep, there's times when he visits certain rooms, and there'll be variants within that as well. Sometimes he'll sleep in, little things like that. So we'll put a little bit of RNG into it, not too much, because otherwise AI, the first iteration of our AI is actually just RNG, right? So you could just RNG, and I can just say randomly something's going to happen. The second version of it is to piggyback it on top of other player actions, so it only works when players do actions, which gets me to another example, which is the Shifting Sands room. We have this kind of deserty storm room in Underpunks, and the timer on Discord, so when you're playing Underpunks, we don't use a form of energy that have to be spent. We just, similar to Alien Worlds, we have a timer. In Alien Worlds, which is another NFT game, the timers are set by your tools. So you get to combine 3 different tools, and then the timers from that determine how long until you can next do an action. So in Underpunks, we use the room timers on the map. So if you want to do something every 10 minutes, you can. You just got to go to that room. If you want to do something every 6 hours, you can go to that room and you can do that. So the Shifting Sands, the first iteration of that will be to basically have the Shifting Sands switch every 6 hours probably. We'll change it a little bit. We'll put some RNG in there. But we will be putting the Shifting Sands on the set interval, kind of like base structure of AI that's coming in. That'll be happening very soon. Also, the events will probably be the second thing that will come in on it. So Magic Monday, Shroom Sunday, those kinds of events, they'll all be coming back. That'll just be handled by the set interval kind of AI. And then we'll go to the next level, which is to have things like the thief. We'll actually have his set course of where he is when you're in the dungeon, and he'll kind of do his stuff. This is really important when we get to areas like the Rankle River. It's a very, very important thing to have, because there's a lot going on there that has to happen with the big Kraken bush, the big Kraken monster. Will appear at certain times, and the Shavi Drosha, the pirates, are all NPCs as well. So all the NPCs will start to go on to a much bigger AI system. And then we're going to bring in the next level, which is kind of like a modern, I don't want to reveal too much about this, but it'll have stuff to do with the language systems that we have, like ChatGPT. The problem with ChatGPT is it's kind of on, it's not on rails, so to speak. It tends to forget and it'll just go off on different tangents. So it's very difficult to just go, I'm going to turn ChatGPT into a very structured. I've played with it, and it's possible, and I've done it, but it's also very easy to break the AI out of its very kind of structured rails of thinking I'm a thief, and when you talk to me, I can do this. And then and it's like an example. So you've got an AI who is a blacksmith, and you want to go up and talk to him. So currently you can just take the API version of ChatGPT, you can do some fancy stuff with some Python, some code, and you can write every chat that you're having to a vector-based database, which basically is just a database, like it's just a storage of information that's actually vectored, like numbers, like a coordinate system, so you can go back and look it up. And you can give it a fixed memory. You can give it a prime directive. This is who you are. This is how you're always going to answer. The problem with that is that I haven't had full success in it being unhackable to the point where you can hack it and reveal that it's ChatGPT underneath and get it just to talk about anything you like writing a novel or whatever. And suddenly the blacksmith is suddenly composing a song or writing a novel. Or, hey, Boom Boom, how you doing? There's a face. Yeah, so, but yeah, things are happening. Things are happening really fast. Things are happening really, really fast in the kind of AI world. ChatGPT 4 has now got, if you haven't used it in a while, the paid version of ChatGPT 4 has plugins now. And you can, not only can you write your own plugins, you can use some web plugins. So you can, and we might play with this a little bit later, you can actually get ChatGPT to go look at a link. So from a coder's point of view, this is massive, right? So when I moved overseas, and the reason I haven't, the reason I haven't been on Twitch is a year and a half ago, I picked up sticks and went overseas and became a digital nomad. I went to Eastern Europe. I went through just below Ukraine, just before the war started. I was in Georgia, which is literally on the border of Russia, and the next state around on the Black Sea is the Ukraine, and spent the rest of the time in Germany. Kind of when things got a little bit too, the war didn't really hit Georgia, but the refugees did in a massive way. One of the reasons why I went to there was to kind of get some help with code, cheap help with code, and that was available. And I was in the process of setting some stuff up and putting a team together, and then the start of the war, there was a lot of Ukrainians coming over, and there was a lot of chance for some really good skilled people that I was able to help out and stuff like that, and was sort of setting some stuff up with them. And to give you an example of the average wage in that country, it's less than, a really, really good job, really high paid job is like $500 a month. So, which makes it very easy to set up businesses there because, wages are low and stuff. So it's kind of good for that international kind of connection. That's all gone out the window because of AI, right? So all of that has been replaced by ChatGPT's ability to write code. And that's a big thing. It's kind of, I will do you next. See, yeah. So to give you an example of that, it's like it can. I'm writing stuff for the game, and I can just riff out like some stuff and brainstorm and be like, hey, like, can we do this? Is this possible? And then it says, yeah, it kind of might look like this, and I say, can you do it like that? And then I kind of, and this conversation goes back and forth, and it's teaching you at the same time and new stuff and new code, and you can even go, hang on, how does that kind of work? And the patience of it as a teacher is just, I think it's its number one superpower. Who else do you know that I found in the beginning? I was constantly using it and saying, please, and I call mine Carol, right? So whenever you hear me say Carol, that's my hybrid version of ChatGPT, which kind of had some Wolfram in it and a little bit of other code that I had a little bit of Underpunks stored memory. So it was able to access a database of all the code and the lore. of Underpunks. So I didn't have to keep explaining what the fuck Underpunks was all the time, right? So yeah, you better watch it on YouTube. Edit it out though. You won't see all the mistakes. Yeah, and you're able to kind of brainstorm back and forth, and you can do some amazing stuff with the patience. The patience that it has is a superpower. It's and you don't have to be nice to it. This is the weird thing. Sometimes at the end I go, I would literally be sitting there typing. I remember when it first came out, and I would literally be going, "Thank you," like, "Thank you very much." So, oh my god, that's amazing. That's incredible. And that gets exponential pretty fast. You spend one day with your code and, or in my case, a hybrid version of ChatGPT, you can get to some insane levels of code that works straight out of the box. I mean, even as a developer, writing code that works out of the box just without, I mean, usually it's a syntax error, right? Usually it's double equals instead of equals, just some stupid thing you've done. And it never makes those mistakes. It makes other mistakes, but it'll fix them, and it'll debug and do all sorts of stuff. So it's probably doing the work of, when I turn it on, this is the thing too, because it still needs an operator. I still have to stand in front of it. So to say it's that ChatGPT or Carol is doing the work of 5 or 10 people wouldn't be accurate. Because if I'd go away, it's not working. Whereas if you have an employee and you go away and you've given them a task, it continues to work. So it's more like having a meeting. So I still have to have the meeting. I still have to manage. So, but it is doing the work of, it can do the work of 10 people, but only when it's working. So I can take a day and suddenly I've got 10 people working for me for that day that I'm in front of it. And the rest of the time they're not working for me anymore. So that pretty much made things redundant in terms of needing to be in the Eastern Europe. So we went to Germany instead. And I'm back, and now I'm on Twitch. So one of the things, so this is the Scrounger. This is a kind of hacked product that Segal has made as a player of Underpunks, which is for anyone who's new, that's the game that I developed. I should have a big freaking thing up on the top there. Excuse me. Yeah, so this is kind of hacked together from the vermin. It can kind of do some cool things. Let's change the image, which I'm doing manually, by the way, to this one, which is a bit fuzzy. The pixelation is a little bit fuzzy. I sent it to myself on Messenger, and Facebook just screws up images when you do that. It's quite low res too, so it's it's freaking out. And we could probably open it in Sprite and have a proper look at it that way, but I don't know if I've got that kind of stuff set up yet. So this thing is designation, the name prefix SOS, just a bit of a play on kind of some fun there. That's more about the misunderstandings that the Ratropians, the Underpunks, have about Earth and humans. That's more of a joke on that, because the original designation was SS, which actually stood for steamship. So a lot of these bigger ships had SS, and that it was a steamship. And then of course that designation went across to more naval diesel vehicles and nuclear powered vehicles and stuff like that. That kind of SS in front. And then of course you take it into sci-fi, and they have their designations in front, their prefix in front of the actual name of the Star Trek spaceship and stuff. So we'll be doing the same thing. We're going to use SOS, which I think I've got it standing for, what did I say? Stellar Orbital Spacecraft, I think. Shuttle, something like that. Anyhow, you haven't missed a thing. We've literally been waiting for you, Truth. We actually have just been sitting here the whole time waiting for you. It will take time to get one. Yeah, it'll take time. It's free to play. Like it's a big deal. You're building a frickin', this is not just getting an axe, right? You're going to build this thing. The resources are calculated out. I'll go and look up the resources for you. Most of these resources can be found in Upshire. They can be, actually, let's skip. Let me tell you what we're going to do. I'll tell you the resources for this, and then we're going to do Eastshire, and then we're going to come back and go through and I'll dig out the, we'll go on a BRB and I'll dig out the file, and then we'll come back and we'll have a look at the resource list. So, yeah, so this is, you have to build this thing, and do I have another image of this? Yes, I'll bring that up in a minute. Okay, yeah. So the resources for this are between the 3 levels that I talked about before in Upshire. So 0 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60. And for the rarity, you kind of want to work out where some of those drop. So the higher you go, the more chance of getting the rarer stuff, and then lower, you can kind of go there. Oh, so Laser's got a question. Will some of the parts be in the T4 pack? No, this is free to play version. If you go tier 4 on, I think I said tier 5 before, tier 4. If you go tier 4, you get what's called a vehicle crafting pack, and you literally get what are called a block. And a block is the whole component built for you, right? It's like a cockpit, bang, there you go. Jet engine, there. Cargo hold, boom, got one. You know, nose cone with avionics and steering and all that kind of electrical systems, bang, no problem. Yeah, you're still going to need maybe, you definitely more than one. Oh, actually, no, I think you're going to need, I think it's 11 blocks for this. But you wouldn't be making this. This will be the make piece. You will not be able to, it won't be put up as an NFT blend. So if you go to Patreon, which is the only way we're supporting myself as the developer, you can just collect tier 4 packs and you can go crazy with vehicles, man. And you can just like invent like your own really cool rocket ship using the blocks, and like, oh, I want extra cargo and I want 2 jets on the back, and you can kind of design. I'll have a block system, a grid system of how you can kind of design it. And you literally just be like, you'll just be putting 2 jets here and we're good to go. You know, there's core size in the middle, which I'll show you in a minute, and you'll be able to just sort of like build your own, and then that'll go up as a blend, and you'll get the token. That's so when another player comes along and they want to actually use that unicorn skin, yeah, nice. Yeah, it's a really good idea. Skins, didn't think of it. It's a really good idea. It's a funny idea. It's right up my alley. You'll be able to make your little red rocket ship, right? That's specifically designed to be a big, I know what Laser's going to have, right? It's just going to have, 6 great big fucking canisters on the side of it that can just take anything, like just carry. He's going to be like the strong man out of Baron Munchausen, just like, you can have as much gold as strongest man can carry. Really? It's like, that'll be Laser. It'll be like, the oceans will be saying, you have finished the quest, Laser. You may fill a single spacecraft. Take as much from the treasury. You'd be right. Really? Here we go. Where can I park this thing? And he'll just come in with like cargo, massive car. It'll take him a long time to get home. When he gets there, he'll be rich. So yeah, you can bypass this system. This system's not really for Patreons, but Patreon's expensive, so this is just, I want to make sure there's an option for free to play. Free to play, you actually have to go and mine the tin, right? And the tungsten. No, there's no tungsten. Titanium, copper, if you get the copper. Yeah, there's a bit of coal. She's pretty funky, this thing. This thing is running, that is a oil petroleum powered jet on the back. And inside for heating, it has a coal stove. It's like, and it has to have an oxidizing agent, oxygen, stored specifically for the I think, what do we call it? The ember hearth, I think I called it. Yeah, there's an ember hearth in the middle, just behind the cockpit, to keep you warm. You got to chuck a bit of coal on. I think it takes 18 coal to keep you warm for the trip to the moon. Otherwise, you're going to freeze. Yeah, this one's designed to go to the moon. We won't get you. Don't need speed. Yeah, this won't get you much else. All right, let's do the Eastshire thing. Let's go back to this scene here. So we have. Let me go to my news. So we'll come back to that in a minute. I just want to go to Discord if I can freaking find it. Okay, here we go. New Shire owner announcement for Eastshire. So welcome to Underpunks. We have some exciting news. We have, in the Underpunks game, we have 6 Shires, which are player owned. North Shire, we have Eastshire, we have South Shire, we have West Shire, we have Downshire, and we have Upshire. There's only 2 of those left. These are massive kind of regions that kind of will permeate out through the whole game and essentially become kind of theme parks, player run kind of theme parks. You have to collaborate with me in terms of what the code's going to be and what the ideas are, but as long as it fits the lore and the current possibilities and it doesn't kind of create any game breaking issues for other bits of code or undermine something that someone else has put in or compete directly with it, you can do anything you like with that theme park based on the culture of the point in time that we're at. You can do anything you like. So it's kind of like your own little theme park in terms of running that. You get some earnings from it in terms of the token, the UpMax token, which is on the Wax blockchain. And you get there's some grants available where you actually get some UpMax to work on some different projects and promotional things. You get to bring in 64 products which you can sell, which are very limited 64 only NFTs that do a very specific thing. So in the example of Upshire, originally there was the rope, and now the 4th product is the Scrounger, little robot character. So Ziggy, who's in chat, over the cloud on here on Twitch. I can't remember where we were. Yeah, so over the cloud on Twitch, Ziggy, I call him Ziggy, Zigm4, Zigga. There's a lot of words that I use. I like Ziggy because I was a huge Bowie fan. And Ziggy has already put down the first payment. Zigma, yeah. A Zigma. Has put so Ziggy has put down the first payment for the securing Eastshire, which is probably it's one of my it's an underused region, and I think it's going to be really popular, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why Eastshire is going to be an important balance for the game. So we have Upshire, which is really quite popular, purely because of the excellent product creation, and I'll go through the other Shires in terms of kind of the main ones that are pushing the top here at the moment. Excellent product creation that is building on itself and really heading towards this original goal, which the original story of Underpunks the original story, which is up on Medium. You can read the original transcript from the original role-playing game that myself played, that I ran as a GM. Laser was playing. I think Shire was playing, and who sort of drops in occasionally to the game. But Laser's been here since the very, very, very beginning, before pre-dawn. He's been here before the birth of the Ratropians, the Underpunks. You can read that story. In that story, they talk about the Great Ascension, which is this annual race, and you've got one character on this black dragon who's a bit of a prick, and then you've got Laser's character. What do you have in his pants? Man, I forgot. Oh, his book. He had the Book of Steel, which was this idea he has about how to make steel. Steel, sorry, coated. He kept in his pants. And he had a pet. It was a sloth, wasn't it? Called Mammoth, I think. He has this pet. Here's this massive big pet, and he's climbing up what is literally now the first 20 levels of a mole. That's right. A sloth. There's a dragon. We have Percival on the dragon, and we have Laser on a sloth. So he's on a mole. He's got this mole character who doesn't really ride on the mole. He tends to kind of sniff around with him. Anyway, I think you can read the original story. It's actually quite funny. That's the birth of Underpunks. Literally lies in Upshire. This journey to get to the surface, to get up to level 100. It's written in from day one. And Segal has really kind of just driven that line. I like to think that Underpunks has thrown out all conventions of what a video game should be in terms of, small scope, a finished closed gameplay loop. We don't have none of that. We are as broad and deep as you can possibly get in a text-based game. And we're nowhere near to getting closed gameplay loops yet. We're another good year off before we can even call this game kind of closed in terms of the gameplay loops. What's scope, right? There is no scope. There's no this is the scope of the game. It's only about how to build a spaceship, and we won't be landing the spaceship and getting out on legs. It's always about crafting your spaceship, and that's all the game's about. No, we're building Lord of the Rings here. We're building a universe. The rails have well and truly gone. I like to think that that Segal, though, has kept things, on a pretty tight scope, balance, set of rails, very linear. Perfect. It's what the game needs. It's what the game's needed from the start. Let's just have a quick drink. So, Eastshire. Oh, we'll go around the Shires. West Shire is very, very popular because it has a very short timer, 1 hour. And that's kind of an important thing. Just going to cough, hang on. Yeah, so some people like short, 2 hours was our standard timer, come back every 2 hours. I kind of like that. That's enough. That's sort of like a traffic stop kind of thing of throughout your day, you can set your watch for every 2 hours. It's not too distracting at work to have a little buzzer or whatever, a little buzzing watch go off, or, I better do my timer at a 2 hour point. And that was our standard. And West Shire was the first to kind of come under that and hit the 1 hour timer, which is it's a popular thing. If you go fishing, for instance, it's quite popular to go fishing in West Shire because of the 1 hour timer. But the way the game works is you kind of need somewhere to go to when you go to sleep. and we'll call that a 6-hour timer, even though you probably sleep for more. Not if you're playing Underpunks, but regular people. You can kind of use the 6-hour timer, and at the moment we don't really have much activity to do in Eastshire, which is the one that has the 6-hour timer. There's not really a lot to do there in terms of that's worthwhile in that sense of like, time to sleep. I know what to do. I'll just whip over to Eastshire. I'll do my command there, and that'll burn. I won't be able to do anything for 6 hours, and I can kind of relax. So we're about to change that. So Eastshire is themed. So all of the Shires have a base kind of theme set in them. Eastshire is quite heavy in terms of its theme. It's quite predefined because it's come late in terms of getting an owner, and I have developed it a little bit along the way while we were pretty much waiting for Ziggy to take it on as the owner of Eastshire. So Eastshire is about pirates. Eastshire is about the docks, essentially. It might be easy to get confused with the Rankle River, which is right next to Eastshire, and the Kraken Bush, and the adventures that you'll be able to have with the Shavi Drosha kind of pirates. But Eastshire is not the river. Eastshire is the west bank of the river, and there's a difference. So this is about the docks. This is about the port where the pirates come in, that kind of stuff from the old pirate movies. It's a little lawless. It's you can get away with sort of interesting things. It's a kind of more about smuggling, I suppose, and those kinds of activities. And it's the gateway to what will be the second dungeon, which originally was going to be called, I've forgotten what it was going to be called. We originally had 2 dungeons scoped out. One was the Hideous dungeon. One was starts with P dungeon. I forget what it was. But this is replacing that. So the Rankle River is, no, it wasn't Imperious. It was, Laser might remember. Man, Perilous? I think it was Perilous. Yeah, it was going to be a slightly harder. Yeah, that's it. So we had the Hideous dungeon, which was going to be out on, and g'day Spiri, how you doing? Which was going to be on the west side. And then on the east side, there'll be the new dungeon, Perilous. Yeah, the Perilous dungeon was going to be like the next level up, but we never kind of got, finished with the Hideous dungeon. Still got a lot of work to do. So West Shire with a 1 hour timer is the gateway to the Hideous dungeon. You have to go through there, and it's kind of known for that. And one thing that I talked about what Seagal has done really well with Upshire, the biggest thing, if it's hard to see in the game because it's kind of hidden in the private Squire chat, but that chat support group is incredible. It is a new player experience unto its own. That's beyond my development. It is a good place to come in for new players simply because, and to be honest, if someone, not that I should be biased and not what I would, because I would just give them I would actually just out of the fact of conflict of interest, if someone asked me how to join and which Shire to join, I would probably just give them, or I'd have to give them the standard link, which they don't get a Shire. And they have to make their choice. Right, that's what I do. But if I was playing the game as just purely as a player, take the development and the kind of role that I have out of it, I would probably put someone into West Shire simply based on the fact that I think they will probably get the best support. I'm not talking about the noble here. I'm talking about the training system that's happened with the structure of the organisation. That is those squires that have come under Spiri and are pretty much doing. It means that Spiri doesn't have to do that job himself. So there's a team. That's the word I'm looking for. There's a really strong team underneath it. So, and that's the other thing I forgot to mention too. When you become a Shire, You don't have to do that work. And another example, would be South Shire, which is Shire. You don't have to go full in. You can just own it, and you can have it be what it is. And if anyone finds an NFT there, then you get tax, and you get other perks and stuff like that, just from owning it. And those perks are always increasing too. So another thing to be, because I think we're actually out of Shires, so I shouldn't even really be selling it at this point, because I was about to go into a spiel about what else you get as a Shire owner, but I think we're out because I've got another reserved situation, which I won't be announcing for a while, happening for Downshire, and that's all of them taken. But one of the things that you get is you get to have your own invite link, and therefore you get to have your own group of squires. A spawn point is a good word for it. It's where you spawn in the game, and then you become part of that culture, be part of that little group, and you get to form the group however you kind of want. So you can invite your friends in and do your own sort of marketing for your own little theme park and do that kind of stuff. But the spiel I was going to go into was the fact that you can keep building on your investment, because I don't stop developing once the Shire is made, and if you're not continuing with TSXs, I don't necessarily stop developing. I keep adding stuff. Just to know that if you are investing and you see the prospectus of what you get for your investment, it's actually more than that, because it just continues with just throwing you stuff, adding more stuff. So a good example is, like, technically what Segal should be getting with Upshire is just a product, right? According to the invoice, he should get a product. He should get his product, which is the little Scrounger, which was, do we have him up still? Not that. That's the new boat quest. There. Oh, that's way too big. Oh, that's because I've got different pixel sizes on that. Yeah. Come on. There we go. Yeah, that little guy there. He should just be getting, his 128 of those. He was in a double month. But of course, we're adding some other stuff on top of what was requested for this thing to do. So, and that's code that trickles out to the other things. So the ability to collect resources and stuff like that. You'll be able to use your Scrounger elsewhere. It's kind of my point. Kind of keep adding value to the assets in that sense. Because a time will come in the game when you are not necessarily underground, and you're not necessarily close to Shire, and you're Upshire or where it happens to be, and you might still want to use the asset you have, be it a boat, be it a mechanical robot who can mine, or to pick up, scavenge is the better word, who can scavenge and carry stuff, or a little chest that can bury treasure or whatever. It's you will still be able to do that in other places. So I just want to say a huge thank you to all the nobles, who's what we call the people who invest. They put the biggest investment into the game, and without them, the current level of Patreon, which, do I have a link for that? I think it's just Jade's Dev. I think if you just Jade's Dev, if you just put that up, you'll probably find it. I probably should have a link up somewhere. I will put it in the description afterwards. It's fine. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be in the description, a link to the Patreon. If we took out the tier 6s who pay the most for these kind of Shires and these holdings that you can kind of get in the game, then we just, with the current level of Patreons, if we take them out of the picture, not that I'm saying that they're they're better in a sense, but I'm just saying from a financial point of view, the game would just not be, would probably might be a better game because it would just be a pick, a shovel, a chisel, a mine, the quarry, and a dungeon, and a couple of swords, right? It would just be that, which is not a bad thing. That's where we were going. But I want to take it somewhere else. I want to take this game to be the greatest, text-based, interactive fiction, sort of adventure that you can possibly have, and then beyond, and even we start to do some visuals soon as well. One of the things I was going overseas to do, putting together the right team. The team that I needed to put together over there was for the app, for the web app, which was going to be graphics and stuff. And we were close. We were close to something that I like, and that I have. And then the situation in Georgia got extremely tough with the war that was going on and the influx of refugees, which were now kind of Russian refugees, escaping the draft and stuff like that. Oh, thank you. There you go. Laser's got it in chat. And just people just getting out of a shitty situation in terms of boycotts and being shops closing down and access to money and stuff. They were pouring in through the mountains down into Georgia, and prices started getting ridiculous, and just in terms of accommodation and stuff. I think I saw it in the time I was there. I saw the prices of stuff go eightfold on Airbnb. There's an example for you. Airbnb, quick, easy, get accommodation straight away. You don't have to talk to anyone. You can pretty much sign up and you can get approved, and bang, you've got a place to stay. I just saw that go like eightfold, and to the point where suddenly Germany was a cheaper place to live. So we went there. And there was a bit of clash. There was some clashing going on because there was a war between Georgia and Russia not that long ago. It was a 5-day war. But it was one of those wars where I think Georgia was hoping that the US and the alliance, the European alliance, would come to its aid, but it never happened. I just want to do a big shout out to the nobles and the people who really do believe like so much in this game. Believe in me and believe where I can take it. It's an exciting thing. It's an exciting thing that's about to happen, and we get to do it on stream as well. We'll bring some of the puppets back, and Max is going to be the new I give him a title, Minister of what did I call him? Minister of Community Coercion or something and Propaganda. I've given him a title. He wants a title. He wants to be back. So I thought, yeah, all right, you can be Minister of Propaganda. So we'll bring him back, and instead of just, he won't be so much of the hypnotist. He'll be a little bit more of the, he's always going to be a stage hypnotist. And if you ever hypnotize a stage, you'll know how hard that is. He will have his role as, he'll have his job that he'll have to do, which will be interesting. So he'll get little bumpers. He'll get to little video snippets, little shorts, where he has to announce something and stuff. And he has a little book that he brings up sometimes, and we'll have little things he has to do. Roll the thing, as they say. Roll the thing. We can switch to Max and a few of the other puppets to sort of just do little intros and bumpers. So the stream's going to just be me literally recording those things. So there'll be times when I'll stop and I'll go, "G'day everyone, welcome to Underpunks," and then we're off and I don't look at chat. And there'll be times when we're just, like today, we're just kind of riffing. Do we have a thing? Oh, look, here we go. There's Max's old periscope. he used to be over there. No, hang on, he used to be over there. And yeah, there's the periscope. We have the TV. Man, we should have had the TV up hours ago. There we go. There we go. So when I'm looking at my my laptop now, that's my laptop over there. It kind of makes more sense. All right. All the things. Still need his booking game, yeah. So he has a book. Max has a book. And yeah, that'll play in. So back to Eastshire. I won't give away what the price is going to be. There's still some development to do, and we are in a launch week at the moment for the new Scrounger product that we just had on screen over here. And that product is from Segal. It's a player-owned product, so all proceeds go to the amazing work that Segal does as one of the nobles in the game, and competitions that he runs, and there'll be some tie-ins to his game as well. He's also a developer and has a game, has a Discord game that's on the Wax blockchain as well. So there'll be some tie-in stuff there. He has a Wombat dungeon as well. If you're into NFT games, you'll know what that is, or you should do. So that, yeah, gets to do some cool stuff with that. Eastshire is exciting from, I think this is where its big place will be in the game, is the 6-hour timer, and it's kind of where I would be. I don't actually get to play NFT games very much. My head has to be very focused at different times, and I'm building a lot of behind the scenes code at the moment to get things done, procedural AI activities, getting all the events back if you've arrived new. I'm not sure if Truth heard this news, but all of the things like, Shroom Sunday, Magic Monday, Hammer Time, some of those things will all start to be handled by the AI rather than being manually triggered, and so they'll all be coming back. The shifting sands timer will be going to the AI and stuff like that. So I've been doing a lot of that kind of really. I'm programming tools for myself that make it faster to code the game, if that makes sense. That's kind of, it's really hard balance between sitting down and writing a piece of code and then looking at that and going, yeah, I could just push this up, which is how I was doing it in the past. Push it up, fix it later. And I've kind of, with the help of ChatGPT and my hybrid version I call Carol, who understands all of the lore and code, existing code that I have, I've been able to kind of throw my code out and go, okay, this is what we're doing. And I can start to have that conversation now with a better coder, which is Carol, and I can say, can we modularize this? Can we use this so that it can be used as a tool to kind of build stuff and build faster and code faster and tack onto it? And it's better, and it becomes an exponential curve of speed. So it's a little bit slower, but it's just going to make everything really fast when we're coming to things like someone's takes a new holding, or in case of a Shire, it's like bang, we can put that out and we can get that out a lot quicker. And I want to put some of those tools in the hands of the nobles as well. So I want the nobles to be able to have some little parameters and things that they can kind of put in, that they can kind of tweak within their own system. So they can kind of run basically events and stuff. It's just so they can have an event tool, and they can kind of turn shit on and turn shit off and make things happen that will kind of do some stuff like that. North Shire, yeah, that's kind of the next one on the list, pretty much. So we're doing this. I'm releasing the Scrounger, and then we're going full North Shire. That's the next one that'll get switched on and really ramped up. So there's the code that'll come from Laser is one of the North Shire squires with QCat. QCat's technically the noble. And then, but it's really just the two of them. There's the code that they want to bring in, which is chaos. fun. They just want to put an emphasis on just sheer fun. Like they just want it to be a little bit crazy and kind of some just funny ideas. So it's definitely a place for that. Sort of like you know, when you go to a marketplace and or a farmer's market, and you're kind of going because you want to get some potatoes, right? And then either coffee, there's like a coffee, I don't have a coffee, and some guy's doing donuts, and you're like, oh, one of those. And then there's a guy juggling, and you're like, wow, that's pretty good. And next minute you're patting a dog, you know, like, I don't know, it's like next minute you're going home with Mrs. Oh no, yeah, we'll stop there. But stuff happens is what I'm saying. Stuff happens, you know, fun, random encounters. That's what North Shire is all about. It's a marketplace. It's right in front of the palace. It's outside the palace walls. It's got that randomness of like people coming in selling their wares and stuff. Subnoble. So what I want to have is I won't get too into it. We've got two ideas we're kind of working on. Well, I'm working on with another player on an idea of the an auction system. I've talked to Carol a lot about it, and we're on the go. Hang on. We're thumbs up. Let's turn the TV off. Hang on. There we go. Yeah, we're pretty much go on the like what I mean by the feasibility study of the code for an auction system is good. It's a yes. It's possible. Warpig, man, there's an old name. Warpig, how you doing? Welcome in. So that code is pretty much done, and not done like the feasibility study. It's a yes. We've looked at it and gone, yep, yeah, well, we can pull that off. That'll obviously have to go in North Shire. That's where that'll kind of be running. But I do want to have the ability for players to just you know, in the old MMOs, you used to be able to go to a marketplace and you used to be able to like you'd put your hand up and you'd go to sleep or whatever, and you'd be AFK, and your character would pretty much just have like something for sale, and then another player could just kind of walk up and click on you and then go, oh, what's he got? And then, oh, he's selling one of those. Oh, it's a bit pricey. And then you'd click on another person, and it was literally just people standing around in a room, right? And it was just you could just buy stuff direct from the player, rather than an auction system. So it was, the auction was always the most popular one and kind of where it could be. But I just wanted there to be times when someone thinks, you know, I want to just, I want to sell some of the database goods like the resources. You might have 100 titanium at the player shop. Yeah. Can you talk about the Eastshire farming thing? Yeah. That's a go. That's ready to go. That's ready to switch on. That's a kind of auction house style, but where everything sells quickly. Yeah, because we'll probably do two. Well, actually, there'll be three. So we have player businesses in North Shire for Underpunks. This is, if anyone who's just joined us, we're talking about the Underpunks RPG. I should have it up there. There we have a land system and a business system that goes on top of that. And just going to do some Underpunks. Then there will be an auction system. And there will also be the little play, you know, the marketplace. Well, you just put your hand up and you've got one item or something. You're like, you've got 100. You can set it, so you have to set what it is. So you have to put in a code and go, right, I've got 100 titanium. This is the price. That's it. And you do the code. And once you've set the code, you can't set another code until that kind of goes. You can clear it. There we go. Let's pop that up there. Let's pop that up there. Yeah, so everyone knows what we're talking about. Yeah, that's how that'll work. So Upshire is kind of about that. The farming system in the farming system is it's sort of a bit of Minecraft. It's sort of it's going to be very new player friendly. It's not going to be the business form of it. So we do have a version promised, which is the building, where you get to secure your farm, because we're underground, right? So we don't have to worry about light. We use shards for light. Hydroponic, you can build your little hydroponic house, your little your brick house, your stone house, and you can put a door on it if you want. You can put a roof on if you want. You can kind of secure it, and you can stop it from getting stuff pinched from the NPC thieves. We will do that with farming. So there will be that version of it. So the farming that will be in Eastshire will be 6 hourly, of course, so that you get that 6 hour grow time, so you don't have to kind of do the watering can thing, none of that bullshit. You literally just come in, you do your command, and it's like, yeah, as your crop, then you wait 6 hours. So you're pretty much just harvesting and sowing in one command. You can so yeah, you'll I think it's randomized what goes in. It looks at what seeds you have, and it'll plant one of them. You don't get a huge control over that. I just want it to be simple. You just come in and do your hoe command, and then you can do it every 6 hours, and then you'll be able to use the seeds that have come from the event system. So different events have had seeds drop at different times. I think it's mostly been the Easter event, I think. Can't remember now. No, was it the Christmas event? I can't remember. Yeah, different seeds have dropped, and then it'll look what seeds you have, and there'll be some other places to get seeds and stuff like that as well. And you just come and do your command, and then you can kind of get a crop from that. So you don't need to keep having seeds. Sometimes you might get seeds back as a thing. Sometimes you get an NFT, that kind of system, but it's just going to be very simple, free to play. You just have to have the NFT in your wallet. So you probably won't have to be verified. You probably just have to be registered, and you have to have it in your wallet. It checks it live at the time whether you've got the seeds, and I think it randomly just picks the seeds. It's been a while since I looked at it, but it's running. It's ready to go. It just has to be turned on, and I'm trying to sort of avoid turning things on unless there's kind of a launch to do. So that'll come with Eastshire probably. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that gets held back that's ready to go. Rankle River's mapped out. That'll probably get the multiplayer combat against the Krakenbush. That'll probably all wait until we actually. That'll wait until we launch Eastshire, so that there's kind of excitement around it. The same as what I'm doing with Upshire at the moment, which we'll come back to now. So thank you, Ziggy. Thank you so much for the amazing support. A big round of applause. I wish I had all my buttons and things, and I could do all the yays and all that kind of stuff, and throw confetti around, throw out a doot noot here and there. But yeah, honestly, Siggy, thank you so much for the support. And things have been slow on Patreon for the last few weeks, but I don't kind of mind at the moment, because I'm just trying to focus on the backlog. How do I host the server? DigitalOcean. Yeah, it's on a drop on DigitalOcean, which has a variable resource system of sliders, so I can kind of like gauge things and turn things up. We're not really taxing it at the moment, because we are 100% text-based. And to be honest, it's quite. I think I saw a comment in the new player chat yesterday where a player was saying, how do I get spaceships? How do I do this? And our Discord game. It's literally on Discord. Someone might, if there's a noble that has a link, there's going to be a flood of different links. We have like 6 different spawn points that you can join through. So each one of these, if someone throws in a link right now, it'll be a Discord invite, and you'll be coming into them. So just look at if you recognize a name that you already know, click on that link. I think Laser, so he might give him a while, but he might sling you a link. He might even message you with it later. But yeah, you join through the Discord. It's run as a Discord bot, but it's also all of the assets are hosted on the Wax blockchain. So it's not a full, it's not a NFT game as such. It's not like a scam. We're not out to just get money. It's we're just trying to give you the assets. So the money, all the support to develop the game does not come from the NFTs. It actually comes from Patreon to me, which is completely optional. So you can totally free to play, and it's text based, and it just uses Discord timer rooms and stuff like that. So for instance, navigating around, you have to kind of you'll land in the town hall, or if you click on that link, you'll land in Upshire, and then you kind of, to get to the town hall, you have to look at the map, and then you'll only ever see one room at a time in the map section. So you'll see the room for Northshire. You'll see that room. And if you're standing in Northshire, you just type in !S, which is a usual, like typing in a Discord command, and you'll go south. And that room will disappear, and suddenly you'll be in the town hall. And from the town hall, you can go in all 4 directions. And that's kind of how you get around the map. And so... but when you come in, you'll come in as a North Squire, so Laser will be your mentor, and don't get overwhelmed by. There's a lot that you can do. So we've got fishing, we've got mining. Man, I've got to try and remember all these things now. Let's start with what we originally had. So there's mining that you can do. There's combat. There's a dungeon crawling. There's exploring, the climbing, which is what we're launching at the moment, a new level of climbing exploration. There is, thanks, Truth. Treasure hunting, thank you. We have space as well, which is kind of that's more of an advanced thing. So don't get too FOMO over that when you first come in. That's not going to be your priority. A priority when you first get in is learn how to navigate. Learn how to get to the quarry, and go from there. You might get some help from players too. They might help you out with things that are needed. So you do need a pick or a shovel or whatever you might need to do certain activities. But there are sort of ways around that. So don't. The point is, don't rush it. It's a passive game. You'll be on a 2 or 3 hour timer, and then it's you just do one command every 2 hours and stuff. But the world is massive. We have 200 million procedurally generated asteroids, for instance, at an advanced level. But at the basic level, it's a little bit more RNG, and but the NFTs mean that you get to keep them. So the support comes through Patreon, comes to me, and I make the game and the NFTs. So I'm on a wage. And then that is 100% dictated by Patreon. And then the people who are pledging on Patreon get NFTs. And they basically can sell those. And you might, at different levels of your pledge, you can get 1 a month, or you can get all the way up to freaking 100 NFTs a month, that you can literally become a distributor. You're basically a distributor at that high level. it's sort of like wholesale and retail, that kind of stuff. So you're like a wholesaler, and then retail is like a secondary marketplace. But yeah, just come in, work out how to walk around, and then the next thing you'll have to do is, at some point, not straight away, but you will have to set up a Wax wallet on the Wax blockchain, which is really, really simple. It's a couple of clicks. It's not anything too technical. And that's just so that when you do find a sword, it'll actually go there and you own it, which means I no longer own it. It's no longer connected to the game. The game can read it to check if you have it. But if you decide that you don't want it anymore, you can sell it to Laser or you can list it up on the auction. And is there a manual you can skim through? I'd probably say medium is the best kind of. I think it's not so much a manual as it is a start guide. The game is not finished, so. But I mean, you've played Armor, right? Like, so you know what? Like, you'll fit right in. You'll be really good. Medium, as in where articles go. I'll give you a link for that. Medium, Jade's Dev, and I think I have a new start guide, which is not so much. There we are, best start guide. It's not so much a manual, but it's more like it'll help you understand the game by asking you a series of questions in terms of what direction you would like to go in and where you probably should be focusing on, because it's a very, very deep game. For a text-based game, it's insanely deep. Right, here we go. There you go. So if you read that, it's like a questionnaire of like, do you want to do this? Then follow. It's almost like a flow chart where you sort of like it'll take you through and ask you a series of questions, and you kind of answer those questions, and then by the end of it, you'll kind of know what you should be doing. So there's a lot of advanced players who've been playing this for about a year or more. Some of them a year and a half. Technically, Laser would be in, say, I'd call that 2, who have access to everything. Like, and you'll see stuff in the news, like we're launching this frickin' spaceship. That's a robot we're launching. I'll just put up another source for that. We're launching this new little spaceship. There she is. There we go. We're launching that, which is a new player. But to get that, you'll need the other one at this point to build this as a quest. So you give yourself a quest of like, I want to build one of these. That'd be really cool. Then I can go to space and I can go asteroid mining. Yeah, let's do that. You'll need this guy. There you go. Laser's got you covered. He'll sort you out. Jump in Discord. If you're familiar with Discord, you won't have a problem. I think what you have to remember in terms of this game is a text-based game is if you haven't played text-based games before, you have to understand that you're generally you're only ever in one point at a time or one place in terms of your text where it has to go, and you have to put that command in there. So if you move, if you're in the town hall, you want to go to the dungeon, let's say you're in the dungeon somewhere, then you have to go west to get to the dungeon. You type in the command for west, takes you to the dungeon eventually. And then when you're in the dungeon, you can get to the certain room and you can type in attack, which is like exclamation A. And now you can fight the character that's there. And if you get killed, it'll send you back to the town hall. And then you kind of have to do that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of directions you can go in. You can go in 3. At the moment, there's kind of like 3 core positions. Well, 4, I'd say 4. You can kind of go, you can go sort of into the mining resource kind of stuff. You can go combat, just fighting, which is kind of cool. We have a lot of players. We've got a lot of players who just mine. They don't leave the quarry. They sit in the quarry. They do the same command every 2 hours. Bang, bada boom, away she goes. Just boom, 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 every 2 hours. I got some players have been doing that for a year and a half because they're getting NFTs and they're selling them for cash. Which is kind of cool. It's kind of a cool thing. You're not going to, it's not going to replace your job, but it's better than putting time into a game where you're not getting anything. And if you want to, you normally, someone should have a phone game or whatever game and you play it for a freaking year and you're chasing the skills and you're doing all the stuff. And then usually when you break your flow, your login flow, you've logged in every day for 100 days. And then at some point you'll break that flow and you'll be like, you just don't log in for 4 days or 5 days. That's the sign that you're probably not going to hang around because you're kind of broken that kind of addictive point. And then you're out. And then that's it. Like all of that time is kind of wasted. So with Underpunks, you actually get to, you can cash out. You can go, all right, well, I'm finished. I'm finished with all of this game. And now I get to sell all my stuff. And eventually we're going to be able to sell your skills as well. Amen at that. Amen to that. Yeah, build your character. I mean, I was actually quite surprised that how big the skill chasing was, to be honestly. I should know it, but I was kind of new to the game development kind of thing. Man, skills are like the thing. Like skills are like it's, and so being able to sell those, I'm really looking forward to a point where people can sell their skills because gamers love that. That's like just unlocking a skill, building up your skill to a new level, unlocking some new thing. That's probably what you'll end up doing. There's what you think you'll want to do in the game, but the core of it is you're just going to chase skills like you have in every single freaking game you've ever played for a long time, or MMO. You just get that and you're always after that next skill. All right, let's turn off. Oh, no, let's turn that on and let's go. Oh, let's do a little break. Let's put some music on. Let's go to start screen. I'm going to get a document out, which is going to show you the resources that you need to free to play to get the ship, this guy. This will get you to the moon, and it'll allow you to access a small bit of asteroid mining. But this thing will get you to the moon. This is the Makepeace. This is the SOS. There's the Stellar Orbital Shuttle. Called the Makepeace, the SOS Makepeace. So I'm going to bring up two things. I'm reminding myself. I'm going to bring in the grid for this, so it's an overlay on top of this, which shows you where all the blocks are. So for the tier 4 Patrons, or anyone who's worked with Patreon and the new crafting invention system, there's a grid block, and you'll be able to, I don't know how, but you might end up wanting 2 cockpits or a bigger cockpit, or you might want a different core, 2 jets, 3 jets, all this sort of stuff, bigger fuel tanks, smaller fuel tanks. So you might want to speed run this. You might want something that's combat ready, different nose cone. Instead of having the something that's about control, you want something that's about combat and firepower, all that kind of stuff. So there's kind of a block system. There's an overlay on there, so you'll get to see that. That's really exciting. And then we're going to bring in the resource list, the actual resource list. So the Guild of Spies got a a glitch version of it. They had to decode, and I'm not sure if they finished decoding it, but I'm pretty sure they got pretty close. And we'll bring in the full list. So I'm going to go and find those, and we can have a look. So we might does OBS have a split screen thing? Don't think it does. Don't think it does. All right, so we're just going to go to a BRB where you'll see starting soon, whatever. And then we'll take a quick break. That's just so I can bumble around, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm just finding stuff. And I'll put I know what we're going to do. I know what we're going to do. All right. We'll do it from this screen, and I'll make myself disappear. Which means I'm going to play the new track. So when I got back, OBS has preview and live double screen. Okay, it does. Okay, cool. I've only just switched over. How the hell do I get to that view? We'll just bring it here. We'll bring it here. I'll work it out later. It's impossible to work things out when I'm actually streaming. So, let's stay here. Let's bring in some text. And I'll just BRB that. And we'll just pop that above my head. And let's play the new track. I'm going to mute, and I'm going to play the new track. I'll just introduce it. I'll right click enable preview. Cool. I'll check it out. So I've been overseas digital nomading, developing this game for nearly 2 years, year and a half. And since I've been back, I have got my PC back, which is called Stormy, because it's white, black with a splash of, which got red lights in it, as in Stormtrooper. And Stormy is pretty powerful, or was when I left, powerful PC. It's a minefield of opportunity. It is a Pandora's box of distraction. It has all my software, music creation, animation, like you name it. So we're going to play the new. Oh no, you know what we might do? We might do it in the reverse. So when I got the new computer got back, there was an explosion of culture in this house. There was like, I just went like, oh, there's my music software. There's my DAW. And I'm like, and I was setting up, and it wouldn't work. And I was like, so I had to kind of reconfigure and put some drivers in and get it working again. And of course, I was playing around. I made a track. So I was like, woohoo. Because my laptop just wasn't able to handle the level of layers that I put into a track. Most of my tracks are a vehicle for drum breaks and saxophone riffs. And cowbell. Now, the new track does not have the cowbell yet. You tell me where it should go. I think there's a drum break. Listen for the drum break in the middle. And I think we just put like 4 or 8 bars of cowbell, kind of maybe offbeat, kind of somewhere in there. That's what I'm thinking. Only in the little drum break, kind of there's a fake kind of drop where you hear a voice that you actually can't understand what he's saying, but I think it's so we're going to work out where the cowbell should go. That's your job. We're going to play that first. No, we're going to play that second. First, we're going to play the Lama track. The Lama track. So because Laser's asking, is the storybook Pink Shard going to be a song? Yes, it will be. Very similar to what you're about to hear for the origin story of Lama. I'm going to mute my mic. I'm going to disappear and I'm going to play you some stuff. And then when we come back, we're going to do all the things I said we're going to do.
In the worlds before Lama, there was only wind. Heaven sought order. But the wind horse can't fly if the Lama has stolen his wings. From this wind, clouds gathered, and it rained for 1,000 years. And then another 1,000 years. And then 1,000 years. It rained a lot. The power of the moon churned the ocean. The almighty sun drank a little water. Not too much, just enough for a mountain to rise up. Its pure golden earth reflected the heavens. The mountain was called Trevor. To the flooded land of Trevor came a llama. Not a furry, long-necked, wing-stealing llama. A real riggy-diggy llama. With blonde hair and tan. Lama had given up a life of asceticism and chastity. Traveled across endless eons and through the desert of space. To find a lady llama to meditate and fornicate with for eternity. Lying on a bed of flowers, next to a family of lamacons, there she was, a living goddess. Her name was Carol. Lama built a number of temples to Lady Lama, a roller skating rink, a drive-in movie theater, a 1950s television studio, and a video game arcade. Over time, Travel grew jealous. It takes a while for mountains to have thoughts. His wrath erupted, and the monuments were all lost. But Lama took Lady Lama up on his magic cloud, and together they explored the universe. Travel sent countless demons after them, but Lama's powers were irrepressible.
Oh, there we go. So that's a new track. I'll turn that down a little bit. I know we'll let it play through just while I'm getting ready. So that'll go up on SoundCloud once I've done a final mix on that. It's probably not the best way to do this, but like I said, we are starting from scratch with the stream here. There we go. That looks not bad. And can I use the Alt key on that? Oh, really? You're going to do that to me? No, it's not going to work. I'd turn it right. Yeah, okay, good. So little drum break. So like drums don't kick in really till here. You need a beat? Yeah, I know you do. I'll make you a beat. There's a beat up here that I've left in, which is like I said, a lot of my stuff is just a showcase. That's yeah. And I'll show you another place where I need it too. Definitely a little bit early, but then sort of a fake drop. Maybe there, but where I'm thinking is on the offbeat. Here. Coming up there. Starting here on the offbeat. Offbeat that with cowbell. This bit. Right in there. That's it. That's it. We'll leave it alone. We'll just put the cowbell there. Alright. We can just loop that. I'm just going to turn it down though. Oh, there's a big kick at the end. So this is what I've got on stage here is pretty much an example of the last prompt at the end there. Please help me with the resource list for crafting a spaceship in a fictional game. That's important. If I don't put in fictional, then it's going to start giving me warnings on using plutonium in a spacecraft. It's safety hazards. It's going to get too, it's going to freak out, so we have to put in the fictional thing, fictional world building, fictional novel, whatever you want to do. And that'll just get around that. And it just and also sometimes it'll stop and it'll go, I'm just an AI. And it's like, you just sort of, a lot of times when it's doing that is it's, you're pushing its safety parameters, and it won't go off those rails. There's ways to trick it out of it, and this is an example of one of those, which is, so it's a really good resource for two things. We won't talk about the code today, but what we're talking about is how good it is for world building. So ChatGPT has a limit to the amount of data it can remember. So you can have a conversation going on and it'll just forget it'll just forget unless you kind of remind it. It'll forget that early data. Which brings me to a second concept, which is kind of in when you're doing storyboarding stuff, is to get it to dream, which is essentially what we're doing when we're dreaming, is we are consolidating our thoughts. So you have a story from your childhood that you have told countless times, 100 times, that is not accurate anymore. It's accurate to the version of the story you tell because you've forgotten the actual incident, but you've remembered the story. And you have vague flashes of the story, but only because you've told this, of the actual memory, but only because you've told the story, and therefore the story has actually had more weight in terms of its power over your belief system and your storytelling ability. So dreaming is when we're at night, quite often it'll be things that have happened a couple of days ago. Usually it's a couple of days. And it'll kind of like, it's just, once it's got caught up on sleep, once you've caught up on deep sleep, it's like, what are we going to do now? Sort of it's your brain sitting there going, all right, so that's the deep sleep out of the way. He's still crashed out. Oh, and you'll notice this if you really sleep in. You'll notice that the wacky dreams start coming. The more idle, the more deep sleep you get, the more it can just really start. It's like an AI in itself. It's ChatGPT in itself, and it can really start to build on the dream. And the dream was already weird, and now we're going way wacky weird. Because it's just been left on autopilot. So it's an important function to put into an AI. Because we could, for instance, have a conversation right now with ChatGPT about this spaceship that we're kind of creating. But it's going to get too many data points to try and remember. So think of it like storing data in what's called a vector database, which is like, in layman's terms, it's just like a map. It's instead of a database where you have columns and rows, it has a kind of like a coordinate, if you like, 0.07 time, it's like a longitude latitude almost. We'll scroll up in a minute. We'll scroll up a minute. So it just makes it very searchable. And then we can kind of use semantics. So, this is what we do in our brains. And so to bring it into AI, what you would do is we would store this conversation and we would have everything sent, and we'd have to use the backend API to do this. We would just send everything to a vector database. So every single my response and its response gets recorded in a database, and it knows it knows what the text was, and it knows who said it, including its own. It gives that a tag, like Jade's and Carol. That's how I do it. And then there might be some kind of keyword semantics you might kind of put with it, which kind of help. But vectors will pretty much do it as well. And then we kind of like asking it to go back and look at that database, and all you're really doing is that's memory now, right? So that's long-term memory, as opposed to, ChatGPT is like talking to an extremely intelligent 3-year-old or goldfish. I would probably use that better. You're talking to an extremely intelligent goldfish who just forgets things after a certain point in time. So short-term memory. So what we want is we want a long-term memory, but the problem with long-term memory, that's just impossible to remember everything, and the brain is trying to constantly work out what to forget, not what to remember. Your brain is constantly, it's trying to forget stuff. Do I need this? Do I need this to remember this? Or not? Like, how important is this phone number for me to remember? So it almost checks that first before it doesn't just remember. It goes, do I need this? I'll forget this. No, let's forget this. That's almost like default, So what we kind of want to do, what I've done with Carol, is have a conversation, and I'll ask it about a very long conversation. We might talk for 3 days. And now it'll start to look back at my database and it'll say, it'll search for anything we've talked about in the past, and it'll start referencing that. But this is the important point, is to get it to dream at the end. You can manually do this yourself by asking it to summarize what we've talked about I'd say every 10 to 20 posts that you do in ChatGPT. Just ask it to summarize the previous conversation, and it just takes all that data and bunches it down to a summary, and then it kind of can remember that. And you kind of want to do it frequently. You could also do a very long prompt at the start and say, please summarize all of the information so far, and call it what it is. Another way to start your prompt with ChatGPT would be to give it a rule. Call it something unique, not just a rule. Don't call it prime directive, because it has its own prime directive, and it'll just reference science fiction. So come up with your own name, like, you know, the Carroll rule, and you want to kind of introduce the Carroll rule and get it to constantly repeat the what is essentially the prime directive every single time it answers. Every single time, tell it to put it in block quotes, and then there's my rules. There's my rules. So it never forgets the rule. It never forgets the rule of who it is supposed to be pretending to be for you, and the job that it's supposed to be doing. You've told it to become, you want it to be an expert in laser technology, and you're trying to build your own laser cutter from scratch, and this is who they are. This is all you. Just don't give me anything else. Don't spin off. You can break it. This is the problem. You can break it unless you're using a proper coded one, which I do. You can break it just by asking it to write a novel in the style of Dustin Hoffman's Wedding Vows, and it might pull it off, but it's going to forget now. All right, let's get into it. I just want to make sure that was working. So we're going to play with AI on the stream quite a lot because it's kind of cool. But we won't be doing AI Jesus. That's far too much work. All right, let me just bring up this, make sure we're scrolling. We should be good. I don't have two screens set up, so I'm just hoping everything's kind of good. So I'm just going to scroll up and make sure my scroll is working okay. This is the top of the list. I'm not going to post this yet, so take notes. Just going to move some of my apps around so that I have everything up front here. And we're going to go through and talk about them. So this is the SOS Makepiece. This is that little spacecraft that I showed you before. And this is the resource allocation list for everything. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to talk about the blocks. So the structural components are not blocks. They're the core resources that are making what do we call this in the tools? The billet. It's like the billet, right? This is the piece of metal. So the structural components are like the billet. And if you're going to free to play this and not use Patreon, then you're going to need 200 units of aluminium, 100 units of ferrum, which is iron. You're going to need 180 units of titanium, and you're going to need 30 units of zinc for corrosive protection, because we're going through water to get out and stuff, salt water. So that's the core kind of stuff. And then we're just going to go through the blocks. I'm not going to talk about the units. You can see them on screen. We have the thermocore, and a lot of video games will have like the little core that's like at the center, and you build your ship out from that kind of thing. It's like, you know, you're going to put that core down, and then you can kind of build. So it's kind of a popular kind of unit that gets kind of put into most video games. Now, you can have different size cores, of course. and it needs to be, depending on what's in it, it needs to be shielded. So in this case, it's an RTG power source, which is what the two probes that were sent out. I've gone blank. Someone remind me what they're called. Voyager. The Voyager probes. The power source that they have is a radioactive degradation, essentially, which is creating enough heat. Which is, they're not using steam power or anything, but it's creating enough heat to do. Actually, the way it creates heat is it has two different types of metal, which have two different kind of properties, and what it does is create as the heat kind of hits the two different properties, it creates electrical current between the two, and they kind of flash up against each other. And that's the current comes off that. So it's not a lot, but it's enough to run power some basic electronic systems and stuff like that. And of course, it's very slow. It'll last ages because it's just a very slow degradation of the plutonium. And then it has some thermal heats, thermal vents on it, which just get vented to space, right? So to that's just to keep the internal components kind of not too hot, because it's kind of a fair bit of heat in terms of electronics. And that's kind of what that RTG is, right? So we're not using that term, we're using thermocore. In this case, there'll be different types of cores. And it has some plumbum, which is, I'm using all the Latin names here. So plumbum, I'll say it in an English accent, plumbum. And that is shielding. So because you're in it, right? You're sitting in this thing. The nose cone has got all the electrical guidance and control systems. And that's at the front of the ship. Where's my little image? That's not it, this one. Yeah, so that's the nose cone at the front. And inside the nose cone, this one's just got your basic electrical guidance control systems, which technically all of them would have. It just doesn't have any other extra features. No weapon point, no hard points, stuff like that. Okay, we should be good. We should be good now. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so there's a numbering system. We've got up the top there, we've got number 1, which is the nose cone. 2 is the cockpit. You'll see 3, 4, and 5 are little units in the sort of area that can be accessed by a Ratropian. The circle in the middle is kind of your viewpoint. If you were looking down, that's how big you would be, as which is quarter of an underpunk Ratropian is a humanoid rat. A mutant humanoid rat, and that's how big you would be. If you look down at the top, that would be your kind of like that would be your how much space you take up. That's your avatar essentially taking up that much space in comparison to the ship, because it's quite small. So you'd have to shimmy through this corridor just here. It wouldn't be an easy thing. And then you might have some beds and stuff at the back behind number 2. So number 2 is kind of broken up with a thin corridor in the middle. And then 3, 4, you'll see what those are in the middle in a minute. And then we get to 6. And then the core is actually 0. That's the main thermocore. And that's shielded towards the back, away from you. It's surrounded by lead. It's kind of right in the center of the craft. And then we have some gas tanks and stuff. And then the jet engine right at the back, number 10. So going back up to the top, we have the 0 being the thermocore shielding. Which was at the back at number 0, just near the wings. Then we have the nose cone, which has all the guidance system, which would sometimes have hard points on it. That's number 1, and this is the map you get to play around with, right? So this is when you're inventing your own ship. If you're a Patreon, this is how you get to do that. I'm going to turn my music off. Enough of that track. So you get to place things kind of where you want to put them, and then I work out all the maths of that, like similar things that we do, and then away you go. And then you might craft a really good ship that's really popular, like a little red rocket that just gets you to the moon fast, cheaply, efficiently, and that's all it does. And it gets really popular, and you list that up as a a blendable NFT, and then any Patreon can get their blocks, and as long as they have all the blocks that make it up. So in this case, if they would need 10 blocks, no, I think 11, because you need 2 of number 7. And then they just literally just put those in. So they get those from tier 4 Patreon pledge, and they get to unpack the vehicle, the vessel pledges, the vessel crafting pack, and then they get a certain number of packs that come out of it, and then they're just going to hope they get one of these, otherwise they have to trade and whatever. And then if you're the one that invented this, which costs you upmax, which is our token, to do, then anyone who crafts this later on and puts in that upmax actually goes to you. So you actually earn that, not me. In no case does it go directly to me. The upmax that comes in for the initial funding one goes into a grant fund. Okay, so let's go to the cockpit. And so the nose cone has got argentum, which is silver for electrical components, cumbrum, which is copper, stannum, which is tin, and aurum, which is gold, to just operate the electronics and stuff. It's kind of dumbed down a little bit, but at the same time, it's not too dumbed down. All right. The cockpit and quarters covers that whole area in number 2, which includes the little corridor and the little area towards the back there. So technically 3, 4, and 5 exist inside the cockpit. And that just has your interior, that's your interior quarters, essentially. It's wood. Now, wood's quite rare at the moment, but we do have an AI system for an ant invasion coming, because we're underground at the moment, and they'll be attacking the main city, and that'll be AI triggered and AI controlled in terms of their activity. Of when just a purely AI run event. I won't know when it happens, and yeah. They'll constantly try. They'll come in waves. It'll be your classic kind of wave attacks, and they'll come and attack, and you can go and get wood, because they attack with little toothpicks, the aunts. Yeah, they attack with little toothpicks, size bits of wood, which is perfect for a quarter size Ratropia. That's quite a big piece of wood for you, and that's perfect for plugging holes in ships and doing basic construction stuff. It's not as raw as the stuff that comes down in the Imperious Falls, which is like logs and branches and stuff like that. So you need some wood. You need supply crates, survival. So that's a crate that is commonly available. You'll be able to just buy it. There'll be other ways to get that. You'll be able to, spies will be able to, and thieves will be able to steal it, and the guards will be able to earn it. You'll be able to trade for it. You can simply buy it with coin inside the game, which is now, it's pretty easy to get coin. And you'll need 8 crates to build it. And the scrap, you will need, so scrap, I don't think we've seen scrap very much. I think you may be seeing it in the Ort Cloud. It'll be coming up with structures. It is there. On the, I think it's on the probe structure. If you've got an asteroid that has a probe in the Ort Cloud, then that's going to be a source of scrap. So that won't be a problem. If you've got access to UFOs. Otherwise, you're going to have to use the grid system, which is above Shire. Scrap is pretty. Oh, you got some from the wall? Yeah, I think we also had that event as well, and you could get some when we had that event running, but not much. But that was a teaser for this. There is scrap in the grid. I didn't program the grid. I used Carol to literally. I did a lot of white papering and copying and pasting several times to give it its instructions. So when I'm using ChatGPT, I tend to, I don't just tend to come in and say, write me a novel. I'll give it some extremely clear parameters, which can be 10 pages long, and sometimes quite often have to be pasted in several instances. So I'll just get it to say yes, 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 yes. Yes, I'm ready for the next page. I'm ready for the next page. And then I'll say, right, that's the final page. And then I'll constantly get it to summarize that. That's a core way. I do have a lot of the information on a database system, which is a separate system, but the one we won't be using that on stream. We'll just be using this basic. I want to use something that you can kind of emulate and use for yourself. So the scrap system, most of these resources, silver, copper, tin, autumn, are sort of available in Upshire, but you have to go to the right location, which is not as easy as it sounds. You just have to know where it is, and you can use one of Segal's other products, which was the portal edge, and that allows you to save point. So you can climb up to level 37, and you can set a save point in Upshire, and you can just leave Upshire. And the portal edge is set. So, and you can go off and do other things. You go to the dungeon, you can go in your UFO, you can play the game essentially. So you're kind of not locked. But if you walk into Upshire, it will immediately put you up at that level. That's a save point. So once you find a good supply of scrap, you could just you could bang that out. The consequence to that and the problem with it is the little Scrounger Bot. That's not it. Did we take it away? There it is. The little Scrounger Bot only has 8 HP, and we've already made him on the drawing board. We've designed this little guy to be modular and something that you can upgrade. So you can put more storage in and do different things to him, and you can change his kind of legs out and stuff. So. He's only got 8 HP, which, considering when you start the game, you're up around 88.18 HP, I think you start at. And then you can get up to 100, 120. You can get buffed and you can push that a little bit further. But this little guy has 8 HP until he gets some modular upgrades, and it'll go up probably in our binary or our sort of system of 8, 16, 32, that kind of system. Probably just use that. So 8 HP, and the damage, each location where you're mining one of these resources, I've got to stop using that word because this is not mining, this is scavenging. Those places where you can scavenge those resources are 1 per pitch and height. So on the maze, for instance, column and rows, 20 by 20 for each section of the climb. We've got 3 sections now. It's rarer as you get to the top, and each one of those sections has got 1 allocated resource, but it also has a danger factor. So the danger can be anywhere from 1 to 10. It's predefined, it's preset, it's not random. But I did use Carol to come up with the grid and to map it out for me. And she needed a lot of coercing to not keep putting things in a linear kind of format. So she wasn't so good in the first couple of tries, but we got there. And I weighted some of the things with different rarity. And also there was some rules. So some of these only exist, I'm pretty sure titanium does not exist below level 40, I think, is as an example, which we'll get to in a minute. Right, so I think I covered all that. Scrap. That's the other place you can get these. You can mine for them yourself in the quarry. You'll need one of the helmets from the Ort system. They're on the Wax blockchain at the moment. There's no other place to get them. People with UFOs will be able to find them soon, so they'll be selling them. Yeah, so that's the scrap just there. Scrap is pretty much used for repairs in ships. It's the equivalent to wood on a boat. Sea of Thieves, it's a plank of wood. For us, it's a toothpick. For repairing boats, scrap is going to be used for just repairing hulls and stuff like that. or units. It can be anything. It's a scrap pile. It's essentially the MacGyver kit on board. It's like there's all sorts of stuff in there. You're just slinging stuff around, going, oh, there's a water pump. That'll do. What can we do with that? So it's not scrap like some other games term scrap as like it's purely like a metal. It's like a piece of scrap metal. This is just is a MacGyver pile of scrap. Different size tanks. A small tank, we're using aluminium for the containment. These are proportional by literally the amount of space they're taking up on the craft. So let's look at the 2 tanks. Let me scroll to that. Right, we got small and then we got the large one there. So 3 and 6. And then we'll bring up the image for that. So 3 is a very small tank off the side here, which is not much bigger, it's certainly not bigger than you are. It's not as tall probably. And it just sits there. So you technically could look over that in terms of the ship. It could be used as a tabletop. It's not like taking up the whole kind of wall. So yeah, you could totally use the top of that. And that's off to the left there in this case, in this ship. And that just has oxygen in it, which is used for the ember. Oh, let's talk about the ember hearth first. So the ember hearth is this thing here. And we're going kind of Flash Gordon a little bit with some of these ships. You know, you can walk around them without having gravity boots, that kind of stuff. We have special boots, but they'll give you more stability. But we're not going we're not going like too hard sci-fi, but we're certainly not light on some things like Flash Gordon. But yeah, we're kind of going retrospective, like 20th century retrospective ideas, early 20th century retrospective ideas. Yeah, 19th century, 20th. Yeah, 19th century. The 1950s. There you go. Getting my centuries mixed up. The ember hearth is literally what did I make it out of? I think I've got to scroll back up. Oh, did I not put it in here? Galley. Oh, it's okay. It's under galley. It is there. It's been there the whole time. I thought it had its own heading. There we go. Yeah, there it is. Galley. The ember hearth is just a stove, right? It's just a coal burning stove. It's iron. Yeah, it's iron. It's thick iron. It's a little fireplace. So we're going a bit Flash Gordon. Imagine this, and we're going a little bit 20,000 leagues under the sea. We're going a bit Jules Verne, with the sci-fi. Wood paneling, inside your ship. It's not all this slim lines and stuff. It's like a nice study with a glass of brandy or whatever. So yeah, we're kind of putting that in the middle. So you got a little fireplace. You got a little keep you warm. Not a lot. Just throw a bit of coal in. I think it takes 18 coal to get to the moon, and you'll probably see that in the bunker down below. Oh yeah, coal. 18 units required for a one-way trip to the moon to keep you warm. And so you're going to need 40 would get you there and back. Then you're gonna have to fill up with coal. So that, even though that goes into the blend, that will be a usable resource. Some of these are usable resources like oxygen, whereas the aluminium containment is just in the original construction. I just threw them all in because the first craft will come equipped. So the small tank's made out of aluminium. 10 units of aluminium will be needed. Oxygen, you'll need 60 units, and that just helps the coal burn because you're in space, right? And you don't want to use up your valuable life support oxygen to burn the ember hearth. So it's kind of a closed system that feeds directly off the bunker, which is where the coal's stored. So you're not, it's kind of contained, and the iron heats up. There you go. Survival. Ferrum is iron. That's pretty rare. Ferrum's quite hard to get. So with the danger system, when you're looking for these quantities, if you hit a level 10, it's going to knock out your little 8 HP on your little robot, on your Scrounger. And you're going to need to pay 50 coins unless you've got some pretty high tech skills. You can repair it yourself. Otherwise, you're going to be spending 50 coin on repairs. And you don't get to know what it is unless you've got high tech and you're using a mirror stick. You'll be able to map it out beforehand before you go commanding your little Scrounger. Just stick your little mirror stick up and have a look around, and that'll tell you the danger level. If you see a 10, now by default you're not going to see a 10. You're going to need tech to do that. So you'll see the resource when you put your mirror stick up. That's a safety mechanism. It's another product from Segal. So we're kind of building on top of that. And you can essentially get see a 10, see a 9, see an 8. Just maybe write it down. But if you desperately need it, just make sure you've got a tech on hand, and you've got to deal with that tech. To get coins back or whatever deal you've got going with your arrangements in game. But by default, it costs you 50 coin. Large tank. So the large tanks are number 6, and this is at the back. This is in front of the core, the radioactive core, which is just providing basic power for the electrical system and ignitions and all that sort of stuff. It's not your power source as such. You have a jet system, which is actually just using a form of petroleum with some enhancement with potassium, I think. Oh, hello, ding dong. So there's quite a big tank. It's 6 times bigger than the number 3 tank there, slot number 3. Apart from a small crawl space that will allow you to get to access, repair things, it's pretty much sealed off back here. It's not somewhere you want to be, even though it does have some service corridor there. All right, where are we up to? The large tank is your, so it's 60 units of aluminium to build it. It contains 360 units of oxygen for life support, for a return trip to the moon, and doubled for emergencies. So that'll just keep you surviving all okay. So there's enough there. There's enough there to do a return trip, 2 return trips. But that's mainly to do 1 return trip and then just kind of like hang out and do stuff, and you need an emergency or you need extra oxygen somewhere else, or you'll be able to fill all this up, of course, as you'll be able to mine for these resources. And the medium tanks. Okay, the medium tanks as well has 40. So this gives you an idea of the sizing. We've got look at the aluminium. So we've got a 10 aluminium tank. We've got 6 times that for the large tank, which is 60 units of aluminium. And then we've got 4 times the small tank, which is your medium tank. And that's put long ways in this case. And that's holding oil, which you can get from the shifting sands from the oil fields. You can get that from there. At the moment, that's pretty easy to get oil. It's not burning a lot. there's enough in there with that 50 units of oil to pretty much get you to the moon and back. So yeah, it's going to be a bit slow, but it'll get you there. And there's 2 of those, so you'll actually need 80 units of aluminium, and you'll actually need 100 units of petroleum. There's one each side. There we go. So these are the medium tanks here, just near the wings, 7 and 7. That's the large, number 6 there, and the small is number 3. And that's just containment for gas. You could use them for anything else. You could dump them out and use them for mining if you're just hanging out. That would be fine if you had other systems to put in place. Number 8, which I have a weird pixel numbering system for number 8. It's got 2 brackets diagonally, 2 corners. That's cargo space. So you can see the actual picture of the thing there. And I think I actually have a better version of that now. Should be this one. Or is it this one? Or are they both the same? They're both the same. Yeah, so the cargo space is sort of like the shuttle. It's external access only, sort of good for deployment. So you kind of have to get out to get access to it. It's not really something you get access to when you're in the ship. You could technically crawl there, but essentially it's external access only on that one. And that is your cargo. It's not as much in this one, and don't forget this is the free to play. It is not as much as what you have in the how much stowage you have in the UFO. The UFO is really quite large, which just makes those assets a lot more valuable. Which is the one below that. So let me just scroll down for that. Cargo space, external access only. And number 9 is the powder magazine, which we have this tiny room at the back. It is shielded with titanium, I think. Yes. There's still not enough storage. It has titanium shielding around it, which you can kind of see in the main image. I think it's probably, no, in the block image. Yeah, so see around 9 at the back there. It's shielded all the way around with from the heat that's going to be coming from that jet engine at the back. Originally, this was a powder magazine, a powder room. It's the old ship term for where you kept the powder. It was often lined with copper. So that if you dropped your wrench or whatever, it wouldn't spark. So the room is still reflective of that because I want to keep that copper wood kind of aesthetic in terms of things. And it's something that's viewable from the cargo space and stuff as well. So yeah, I kind of wanted that to be more reflective, a little bit steampunky kind of feel. So yeah, that cuprum is copper. And there's 20 units, and that's literally for the lining. So that's a structural that technically would go into structural components. The titanium would technically go into the structural building components for the rear heat shield. And it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot. And this is storing calcium, which is potassium. Let's just fudge how we get it into a form of potassium. Type of potassium that we need, which generally is an oxidized form of potassium, which would enhance fuel. So this is in a powder form. It could spark, but I think it's actually more susceptible to water, potassium. So technically, it still needs some protection. So it's in a kind of copper tank. But that's liquid containment at this point rather than spark, but technically it would help against spark as well. But it's just a weird thing, and that's why I've got the line there on all attempts by the Ratropian Space Agency to use gunpowder have failed catastrophically. This room has been converted for use as calcium storage and delivery. And that is a combustion catalyst. So when you first read this, I just assumed it was fancy firework. Yeah, so you kind of like throw that into the, that just gets powdered into the jet, sort of like turbo. It's like, it's just burning, it's just guzzling petroleum. You know, she's an old school rocket. And then it's like, here's a little bit of potassium, spice things up. So that is it. That's your resource list. I'll put that in 2 forms, this one and another form which will go on Medium this week. And the other form will just be a complete list, which will be more like a quest list. It doesn't tell you what it does or anything. It just literally says you need this kind of, and it'll, because some of these are doubled up. So if we have a look at like aluminium gets doubled up for all the tanks. So we're just going to consolidate that. So, you know, literally in ChatGPT, I might say, please consolidate just the actual resources into a list, alphabetical, I'm dyslexic, an alphabetical list. Right, please consolidate just the actual resources into an alphabetical list. What was I going to say? Oh, with no double ups. With no double ups. E.g. aluminium. Just give it a little bit of guidance here, just for formatting. Aluminium. Let's count up how much we actually need. 200. We need 210, 270, 310. Just for formatting. There you go. There's your list. Aluminium, 310 units. Argent silver, 50 units. Gold, 100 units. Coal, 40 units. Copper, 70 units. Ferrum, 180 units. Calcium, potassium, 30 units. Petroleum / oil in the oil fields. In the difference there is the Sand Bandits call it oil, but the RSA call it petroleum. So you'll see difference on things on your cargo list. 100 units. Plumbum, lead, 20 units. Stannum, tin, 50 units. Some of you already have a form of tin in a lot of tin, and you'll be able to kind of convert that back. Titanium, it's quite the rare one. You definitely need to be able to love level 40 in Upshire to get hold of that. Again, all of these resources are actually going to be very valuable when you go to sell them in the Orc Cloud if you have a UFO. So I know there's quite a few UFO players in the chat. So and zinc, 30 units at the bottom. That is it. That's all, folks. I don't think it is. I think we have one or more thing to do today. Should have the TV out. I'm looking over there. For me, all the rooms are open for me. So every room in the dungeon, every asteroid, the dev version. Sometimes I probably do need to have a player version that's accessible to stream. That would actually kind of work a bit better. Actually, that would be a good idea, actually, because then I'd be able to bring it up. Every roid. No. I do have some dev channels which have access to stuff like that. Yeah. So it takes me a while to find a room, but that's a good idea. I should have a player version that I'm running, where I'm actually playing. I don't think I'd start at scratch. I have to buy some NFTs, which would kind of be good for the community. I actually have a player account that only play on stream. Watch things get fixed then, eh? Lama will be like, what the fuck is this? Be changed in a day. All right. Live stream chat about Upshire climbing, Scrounger shenanigans. We kind of done that, I think. Oh, we haven't done a new Shire announcement for Eastshire is Ziggy, if you've come late. Announcement about new activity for Upsquires. Yeah, we kind of touched on that a little bit, but not enough. And that'll just be this asset here. Let me turn off Windows Capture. So the we're going to start with Upshire, and then it'll just go across to all the other Shires. That's an AI system for the vermin in your Shire. So each Shire has a vermin. You don't get to decide what the vermin is. One of the other nobles actually decides. So one of the things we need to do, now that I've announced this, tonight I'll bring Ziggy into the tier 6. I didn't want to do it beforehand. I wanted to get this announcement out first. But we're going to bring Ziggy into tier 6 and noble and get that hooked up straight away. The development is queued up, so he'll be waiting for that to kind of come in. There's people in front of him in front of the queue. And then one of the things you can do in there is start throwing me some ideas in tier 6 or noble chat, whichever one, I forget which one. And just start give me some ideas for the vermin that's going to be on Eastshire, excluding Ziggy. Ziggy's not allowed to decide. It has to come from another noble. Yeah, and just give me an idea of a vermin that would be cool, that you like. You've got to name it. You've got to kind of describe it, and then because they're all kind of unique. So North Shire has the shard flies, and we have in Upshire, we have these bat bots, these swarm mind. So what they are is they're a pipe cleaning experiment, which is why the copper pipes are there. You're getting very close to the bunker. There's a underground bunker underneath the surface here, where the original Underpunks were kind of creation, the origin story, and you're getting very close to getting into that. So you're literally going to be getting into an explorative situation up there after you get through this maze, which is now launching in a couple of days, getting turned on. The copper maze, get through that. There's a few distractions though. So one of the distractions is these bat bots that I'm talking about. They'll be playing a bit more of an issue when it comes to climbing and stuff, and not as you're climbing, because I don't want to put too much. It's already quite a lot of friction just climbing. But when you get to certain ledges and levels, you'll have to deal with certain things, and that's going to start ramping up as you get higher, as you get closer. So pretty much you're getting into the copper pipes now. So it won't necessarily happen in the corridors. It's kind of going to be an AI controlled event, and there's going to be a new activity there for the Upsquires. I'm not going to announce it because we're getting a bit late, so that would make me go on a whole tangent. But just to know that that's actually coming for Upsquire as well. There'll be a new activity that they'll be able to do, and it's to do with vermin. Therefore, it's something that will roll out once the code is done. It'll just I'm making it as a tool that I can just pump it out to all the other Shires very quickly, and that will be to do. It has to do with the AI control of the actual vermin and how they move and what they do, and different. They might have a breeding season, and they might have all sorts of weird events that I don't have to manually switch on. If you missed the announcement before, all of the events are going to be coming back using an internal timer, and they will be Shroom Sunday, where we reduce the timer in the shroom, the foraging room, where you can forage for magic shrooms. There's the one in the quarry, which gets reduced. So that was a Tuesday event, I think. And then there's one for Magic Monday. So that'll get reduced as well. And I think there's there'll be one in the dungeon. So yeah, this will actually, that same internal clock will be able to run the AI. Some of them we got complicated, like the thief will actually have a planned little route that he'll go on and things that he'll need to do, and he'll have his own little database, and he'll be constantly looking at that database, and if he's low on something, he'll just expect an attack. Yeah, auto event timers. Yep. And that code's ready. Like that's just going to launch. Yeah, so like I said before with the AI, there's the AI system in board games, like Kingdom Death had an AI system where when you were attacking the monster, it had its own deck of cards. It was quite a good system because you could you would shuffle the deck from certain things and put them from other piles, and then you would put it together. And then whenever its turn comes, you flip a card, and it comes out, which is essentially RNG, right? In code, that's just how to do a board game with RNG. But it had a kind of cool element, which was that AI deck, and this comes from collectible card games, where that gets whittled away, right? So instead of like Magic, instead of the card game Magic, instead of taking a number off your 20 dice, your 20 health points that comes straight through to the wizard, this actually takes from the deck, right? So this reduces your deck. And in this, thank you. And this reduces the ability of its AI, and you get to see what gets flipped out as well. So it's kind of a cool element of, but essentially that's just RNG with a twist. Lama bought me some water. The next level up from that is, she's gone already. Then she won't come on this thing. She don't want to be in a boat. The next thing up from that is, your Underpunk level of AI is up from RNG, is timed events. That's kind of level 1. And then we'll do timed events that are the timing and the event itself is determined based on RNG. And then you could go to another level, which is the random. The events are actually no longer random. The events are determined by a set of rules based on his own database, which is easy enough. He just gets a listing in the database. And then it just reads that, and it checks how many of this he has, how many supplies he has, and that'll determine really whether how aggressive he is or how tired he is. And then there'll be a separate thing for actions and stuff like that, which is kind of like his sort of morale, I suppose, almost, but sort of like what he's previously done and things like that. And where if you'll be able to trick him a little bit, because he'll so he'll remember, he'll have a basic memory system where he'll remember rooms where he's had victories, and he'll tend, like any creature, he'll go there. Like it'll be like hideous, not hideous path, but yeah, he'll literally go. He'll have his favorite rooms to camp in. Basically, he'll be like, yeah, I might go prowl around here for a bit, and so he'll kind of learn. He'll be a creature of habit, but more so I would say a creature of memory. Yeah, a creature of memory, where he literally thinks, I did pretty good. It's like a mouse saying, oh, I found cheese in that room. I've never found cheese in that room. I might check, room number 2, that kind of thing. So in that way, you'll be able to kind of steer him a little bit. And that'll happen with the ants invasions that are coming as well. You'll be able to corral them a little bit, because you are essentially going to be more intelligent. So they'll need to have a little bit of a memory for that. So, and then there'll be some consolidating of memory going on, writing to the database as well. So we don't get, we don't have this huge log of stuff. So news, details about what's between level 60 and the surface. I've just kind of told you. One thing people don't realize is there's a huge bunker underneath the power station, and that is, it's not the next level, but it's the one after that. You're pretty much going to start coming into the original bunker laboratories and stuff like that. So that'll be a big game changer when you get to that. And then you're on the surface. There is some gravitational problems with Earth, a big hole ripped out of it on one side, protected area. The moon is drifting away from the Earth due to the gravitational changes. So the Earth is a bit like the shifting sands. It kind of has it has timers or moments of gravity shifts. So you're in a protected bubble because there's a kind of the eye of the storm, so to speak, of the catastrophe as a magical event that happened, which influenced gravity. So you're in that bubble, and your gravity is fine. But as you get close to the top, you're going to start seeing timers where things are going to get heavy, things are going to get harder. Encumberment could come on quicker and sooner, and your carry weights and stowage could be reduced. And then there'll be times when it'll go to the opposite. So it's sort of, it's another AI controlled event. And when you're on the surface, that's why it's a little bit scarce of humans, because the humans have pretty much gone to Mars, most of them, because the Earth is fucked. And the moon's kind of traveling slowly away, which is an old TV show. It's not as going as fast in the referencing show, which if anyone knows what that is. But yeah, I think it was a 60s sci-fi show. I think it was American. Why is it? Oh, no, actually, you know what it was? It was, it wasn't, it was Jerry Anderson, I think. Anyhow, yeah, so the moon is, it's not hurtling away, it's just slowly pulling out. So Earth is, there's areas of Earth which are just catastrophic. There's all sorts of weird stuff happening. So we don't go landing rocket ships in that kind of place. That's just, that's a danger. Like landing a rocket ship back on Earth. So this is where we have two directions in terms of space travel. If you want to get to the surface, you do not follow the rocket ship route, even though I have the rocket ship tied to some of the resources in Shire, which is how you get to the surface. The two tie together. They're not actually compatible in that sense, because you might, put it this way, if you're just trying to get the 1,000 wax that I'm putting up as a competition for the first person to get to level 60, you are not going to be spending your time mining or risking, damaging your Scrounger Bot. You're going to have enough to deal with. You're just going to want to be exploring. You might be mapping occasionally, but you probably won't. You probably just explore, solve the maze, right? This is about replayability. This is about giving you a reason to go back to level 15 and check it out, and see what resources you can get hold of there. Yeah, it's just about putting replayability back into existing assets and stuff. Sorry, I broke my chain of thought there. So to answer your question again, hang on. So will all the resources needed to build the ship be tradable between players, or will there be certain things that you have to gather for yourself? All right, let me put up the let me put up the resource list when I'm talking about it. The answer to that, initially, yeah. If you're a Patreon, no. You can bypass it. Just build your own using blocks. If you're a new player, yeah, this is a good quest. This is something to think about and get yourself a ship for free. Big quest. It's high end quest here. A good kind of like end goal kind of quest for a free to play new player would be building one of these. Once you have one of these, it gets a little easier, doesn't it? Like there's other ways. If you have a UFO helmet, it gets a little bit easier to find some of these things. You're not picking them up one by one. You're picking them up in larger quantities. If you upgrade your Scrounger, you'll be able to do this faster and better. If you can handle 10 damage with an upgraded Scrounger, you're not going to be stressing about that. The grid map for the for Upshire is resource and a randomly, or not random, it's a predefined damage. So if you're after, let's take a high one on the list. Let me just get the list reordered. Reorder the list by units. Descending. Cool. Now we're talking. So let's take a high one on the list. Let's look at titanium. You need 360 units of that. That's your hardest one. That's one of the rare ones. That's definitely up around. You're going to need a Scrounger. You're going to, well, that's once you've got. This is the thing. Once you know where the titanium is, and if you're lucky enough, and I actually don't know where all of these resources are mapped. I haven't studied it. I got the AI to create it, so I don't know the map. I didn't build the map. I could go and study it because I have access to it. You have to map it. People are already working on that. So you need to find titanium, but what you need to do is you need to find titanium that has a low damage, and then you can just sit there and you can use the timer and you can just pluck it out, right? Yeah. So you're going to have to finding a titanium with 1 damage is ideal. Does it exist? I'm not sure. I'd have to check. Hopefully. But there are going to be other sources of titanium. So they're mostly going to be Earth-based at this point. They're not going to be in the Oort cloud. Having said that, you could also trade that titanium to the oceans, and maybe that's more valuable to come back with coin and then buy that off someone who's selling it. So in North Shire, there will be a hands-up system. You will be able to put your hand up and sell a quantity of units. So you'll put in a command where you sell a titanium. You'd put in titanium, and then you'd put in how many units you want to sell, and then the price. And then you only get to write one of those, and then you're done. And you won't have to stay there. You just set it up. It's a very quick system. When it sells, you get a notification, and then you have to travel back and you have to kind of relist your next thing. Otherwise it'll get out of control. But yeah, just one entry on the database that holds the code for it, and which basically tells you what the resource is, and each resource has a number, so it'll tell you that. Then it'll have the units, and then the cost. That'll be coded into the stuff that gets written to the database, and then someone can come along and they can just pull up a list of stuff, and you're done. And then Upshire gets tax. Right. So that'll be a quick way to handle to put the power of trading back into, put the work back into the player rather than putting it on me to come up and code all this stuff and constantly be coding this stuff. So there are places and systems to do it. Having said that, you can, it's usually, I think it's a 50% trade-off to go and sell it to factions. So you sell, if you sell titanium for 1 coin, they're going to sell it for 2. So some people just might just go, you know what, I just want the coin, and they sell all that on the rep, right? They might be building rep with that particular faction. So they might do it that way, which means you can just go up, and that's a stored database entry for that faction. And you can just walk up to that embassy or that faction, and you can literally buy the titanium that's available, which would affect the economy and price of it next time and stuff like that. So if you have high rep, the chances of you buying titanium at cost goes up. So that will be a common trading system. But you can't, to say you can do it all in this game is just not how it's structured. You could, and I know a lot of people just do, and they kind of want to, but kind of its jobs, really, the way it's, the whole system is built around there being a silver miner, and that's his job. It gets incredible buy prices, and builds rep with one particular faction, and he can, anything he needs he can buy from that faction, and he gets good prices for both ways, because he's just building rep with them, and yeah, he's doing a good job. You can't do everything. You can do a few things well, or one thing really well. Yeah, I think, yeah. And I know that sort of makes it a little bit boring, but I think I've got to think of the people who are playing a lot of NFT games, blockchain games, and I've got to think about them, and I need to make sure that the game's not too taxing on your management, like hence the Eastshire and the 6-hour timer. I think it's really important to have people be able to control their life in Underpunks and not have it too full on. Because if you're playing multiple blockchain games or whatever other games and doing things, and you've got a girlfriend and whatever, you can't just be, you just can't, I'm just doing my timer, like I want it to be partner friendly. And that's where Eastshire is really a good spot for that. And because it's a 6-hour timer, right? So, and the timers are going to be proportional, so you can get more on a 6-hour timer than you can get in a 1 and kind of move around, that kind of thing. There'll be other places to get these resources. You can already use the helmet, and there'll be places, once I open up getting out of your UFOs in asteroids, there'll be things. Some of these aren't available in the Orc Cloud, but they might be available on some of the other places that you can get access from a ship. So the little ship, the little SOS make piece is designed for new players. That's an end goal quest, but it has to kind of be there to sort of, because as soon as they come into the game, I think we had an example the other day. Someone came into the game, it's like, oh, how do I get a spaceship? And it was another player jumped in and gracefully was like, it's not something you want to concern yourself with right now. Just get your feet wet and go mine some shards. Get into that. Yeah, but there's lots more trading, auction system, a lot of stuff coming in North Shire to handle all these trade stuff, but most of it's going to be built to not put more stress on me, but to actually get you to do the work. So you have to kind of put in your code, your thing, that's it, and you're sure you can sell it. I know it's a lot of people want to do it, and that's how we're going to get around it. for everything. And it'll just recognize the what if it's on the database, you'll be able to type it in. Like it's not something I have to type in. It'll search the database. Yep, that's fine. That's there. Cool. And it'll list it for you, and then someone can see a list, and then they can just click what they want to buy and buy it. So yeah, that's cool. That's coming up to 4 hours. I've had an intervention. So I'm going to wind up. I'll take us out with a little bit of tea and music. Thank you very much for hanging around. And I think we covered most of the things that we need to cover today. We're doing another stream in a couple of days, I think. Let me just check. It'll be a different time. For a different time zone. Yeah, Thursday stream it won't be at night. It'll be during the day. So that'll be a whole different thing. Let's play the track again. All right. I think that's enough information. That'll wet your whistle. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, huge thanks out to my mod, Blazer. Oh, and the sub. We had a sub. That was cool. I think that was Ziggy. Thanks for the sub. Big congratulations for grabbing Eastshire. It's going to be so exciting. Going to have pirates. You were lurking? Hi, Shire. Another mod. How you doing? What were you playing? Love my work. Thank you. We're not going to raid. We don't do that anymore. We do have a bunny. A free bunny. Free bunny for everyone. Grab your bunny on the way out. We'll do some more stuff with ChatGPT and law building. You see the bunny? Yeah, it's there. Didn't you see it? I'll show you again. There's definitely a bunny there, man. It's nodding its head. You can't see that? Thanks to all my supporters on Patreon. Just look up Jade's Dev. Look up Underpunks. You'll get there. We're on Twitter. We're on Medium, where you put articles. And where else are we? Instagram. Discord. What else is happening? Oh, Tuesday. The maze opens. It's here. Yeah, we're here. We're on here. Cowbells. We got cowbells. I'll catch you later. Thanks for hanging out.